and welcome to the 416th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony. This is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. We are continuing our look back at the early appearances of the Hobgoblin in Amazing Spider-Man. He was one of the greatest Spider-Man villains around. He had this long secret. Spider-Man could not figure out his secret identity, never got caught, never got busted. For 14 years, his secret lasted. That's crazy. So we're going to find out, we're continuing to find out why he's so cool, was so cool. Now, and it won't be forever, I promise. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, we will, you can also support the show. I totally lost it. By going to, and when I mean lost it, I lost my automatic intro that I usually do. You can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. And that is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. The reason I'm out of it, as you know, so I'm teaching, school starting soon this week, as you listen, and today I spent the day in my classroom just doing stuff, and but now it's time to record the Shift Gears podcast. What do we have to talk about this week? The movie feature is Nobody 2, so Bob Odenkirk. So there's stuff to say about that, and I can't remember if I don't think I talked about the first one on the podcast before. I don't know. It was a weird time. We'll talk more about that later. But crazy action movie. If I'll say right now, if you haven't seen the first one, definitely watch. You don't have to watch the first one to watch this one. But if you haven't, if you're like, what is Nobody? Watch the first one. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's streaming anywhere, but you can rent it on various places. But definitely should watch it. Both movies are a lot of fun. We have a new TV show this week. Too many TV shows for me. Alien Earth started. 2 episodes dropped last week, I should say. I'm only going to talk about the first episode. By the time you listen to this, 2 episodes are out. Third one is about to come out. So you can check that out after you listen to what I have to say about it. We'll have another episode of Wednesday, another episode of Twisted Metal, another episode of Dexter Resurrection, comics, and the news. So let's talk about some news. There's a lot of rumors, and I'm not going to dive that deep into them. Like some of them, when I see these posts come up on various news sites, I didn't even really check them out because I don't need to know details. So and so said this, so and so said this. It's like, okay, I'm looking at it's a possibility. That's the only reason I'm talking about. Maybe it's going to happen, maybe not. Maybe it's just crazy. Like there was one. Sadie Sink is supposed to be in Spider-Man 4. We don't know who she's playing, and I don't know when we're going to find out. The latest rumor was she's possibly playing some character, or the name Annabelle Adams is being associated to her. Is that really going to be her name, or is that some fake out? Because they may not want to tell us right away, which I would appreciate if they that was the case. I don't want to know necessarily, although. If they're like, oh, Black Cat's going to be in it, or Spider-Gwen's going to be, or something like that. Yeah, you're probably going to see it in a trailer or something like that. Don't straight up lie to us, and when stuff comes out. No, there's not multiple Spider-Man in it. You're whatever. So who is Annabelle Adams? She was in the, I believe it was Christopher Yost and Ryan Stegman volume, and she was dating Kane Parker, the Kane Scarlet Spider, not Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider. So that right there doesn't make any sense. But maybe they're like, we'll just use this character. This character exists. We'll just use it and tweak her story or whatever. Or maybe that's just what they're saying, that this is a character. You're like, well, we're probably not going to use this. We can throw people off by saying that, and then she's really someone else. So who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, it was the same thing with Zendaya, where all of a sudden, her name is Michelle Michelle what? Michelle Jones. She's MJ. No, she's not. Whatever. We'll see. There's still like some rumors about is Robin going to be in the Batman 2? There's all these rumors that it's going to happen, and James Gunn has said he's like, don't believe what you hear. He hasn't straight up denied. He hasn't said no. Robin is going to, because a lot of times he refutes these rumors. He shoots them down. He's like, no, this is happening. So he hasn't officially said no. Robin is not in it, but he's like, don't believe everything you hear. Because like with the Batman 2, I think now he's like, only 6 people know what's going on. Only 6 people read the script or whatever. And even I think it was Jeffrey Wright, someone asked him, like, have you read the script? He's like, no. He's like, but I know it's going to be really cool or really big or something like that. So who knows? I mean, is Robin going to be, I don't know. We'll have to see about that. There's rumors about, X-Men movies are getting cast now. And if that's the case, trying to keep that a secret, that'll be interesting. And I would be excited for whoever's getting cast, especially if I'm going to assume it's going to be a lot of like new actors or young actors is what I'm saying. New actors, young. You're not going to have someone. I'll just say Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's not going to be cast as teenage Cyclops. I don't even know how they're bringing the X-Men. How old are they going to be or whatever. But you're probably not going to have big experienced actors. I assume, I could be totally wrong, that they're going to just start young, and we'll have to see. But so what I'm saying is that I'm excited because this is like a chance of a lifetime. Because if X-Men could potentially, maybe this is what the MCU needs. Maybe we need something fresh, something new. It's not necessarily a reboot, but it's like a new direction, a new whatever you want to call it. Like all of a sudden it's like now we can do the X-Men and we can do this and that and maybe that would get people excited. People, I don't know, but. If you're cast as an X-Men, this could be, you could be doing this for the next 10 years maybe, or, maybe people are, Marvel's dead, no one likes Marvel anymore, I don't know. So we'll have to see about that. There's also some talk about T'Challa being recast. Like, is that going to happen? I don't know. I mean, anything is possible, especially if you're talking about comic books, anything's possible. Comic book movies, I mean, you got multiverse, but I don't think they'd want to go there. I don't know. Peacemaker. So Peacemaker starts up this week, which, is it this week? Or it might not be. So if it's when is Peacemaker? Peacemaker is the 21st. So the 21st is Thursday. My question is, how many episodes are they going to drop? Thursdays are going to be tricky for me because, Thursdays are when I go to the movies. So will I be able to watch the episode? Maybe. It's going to be tricky. Let's see. So according to IMDb, which could be wrong, there's only one episode dropping on the 21st because it has episode 2 on the 28th, episode 3 on the 4th. So it looks like, that would be fantastic for me if they only did one per week, but there was something else. I think it was Twisted Metal, where I think they listed only 2 episodes and then 3 episodes dropped, or something. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. So that is happening on August 21st. As of now, it is at 100% on Rotten Tomato based on, I think it was 35 reviews. 35, that's not a lot. My question is, why only 35 reviews? Who are these 35 reviewers? Who are these 35 outlets? Why didn't it go wide? And I'm sure there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of protectiveness over it. You're not going to just put it out to anyone because you don't want to risk things getting leaked and that. And even it doesn't matter. It seems like it doesn't matter. Even if you have someone sign an NDA and all that, scoopers are finding stuff out, maybe. So someone could be like, yeah, I'll sign in. I work for this outlet, whatever. I'll sign an NDA that I'm not going to talk about until August 20th or whenever the embargo lifts or something like that. But then they could be like, psst, hey, Scooper McScoop, this is what's going to happen. Now give me $5. I don't know. So 35 is not a lot. We'll see if it stays up there. But that's promising. That's good. And hopefully it's not like 35 people are really excited or 35 butt kissers or whatever. Don't skew it just to try to kiss up. No, that's not how it works. You be honest or you don't do it. That's whatever I say. Speaking of X-Men, what about our friend Bo DeMaio? I don't know what I didn't. I just I don't want to read details. I saw it mentioned that he had pitched a Blade movie, but it was rejected because it was too comic booky or something like that. I don't know what that means. So how many scripts have there been? What the heck is going on? Why can't we get a Blade movie? What is the holdup? Something is happening here, and I'm assuming that there's people are. I don't even know the process. I'm going to be honest, but this is my idea. Our people are like, hey, here's a script I got. What do you think? Here's a script I got. What do you think? And then they're like, no, nah. And I don't know how that works. But at the same time, it's not like I could just write a script and say, hey, what do you think? I'm sure because Bo DeMaio had some ins. He was probably given the opportunity or the invitation, like, hey, you want to try this? What do you think? I doubt it's like he's knocking on the door and like, hey, what do you want to read this or whatever? I don't know, but it seems weird. Why is it every time Bo DeMaio comes up in the news, it's not it's something negative, or maybe that's the thing. It's like everyone's out to get him. No, I don't think that's the case. But it's just weird. Are you excited about The Running Man, Edgar Wright's Running Man? It's been pushed back, but only a week, so that'll be November 14th, 2025. I'm trying to remember that. I think, I can now remember. I was like, I thought I wasn't that excited, because I somehow, either I forgot or I missed. I was like, Edgar Wright's involved with that? I must have known that, because I did see a trailer at some point, and I'm not super duper excited. Oh, now I just forgot the guy's name. What's the dude's name? Glenn. I was gonna say Glenn Livett. The dude from Twisters and I don't remember his name. Is that guy that's like in the yeah. We'll see how to run. I will watch it. You know who I'm talking about, right? Fallout. I still need to finish that. Because I think I've only watched 2 episodes, maybe 3. I bought the physical media. If you follow me on social media, on Instagram or TikTok, I bought the Steelbook because I want to support it. The Steelbook looks really cool. I need to watch that, but I don't have time. And IGN got an exclusive image reveal, quote unquote poster. It's apparently coming December this year, which that's cool. My question is it going to be the entire freaking season in December? And that is why that's a big reason why I didn't cover Fallout on the show. There's other stuff that I was covering, and then they drop all episodes at once, and it's that by the time I get to it, I was like, this is so old. No one wants to hear about it now because they watched it a month ago. And then that's just about it. I don't think there's really much else. The last bit of news is Zach Krieger. Oh no, there's one other thing. Okay, so I'll go with it. Zach Krieger, who did Weapons. We talked about that last week. He wrote and directed Weapons. He also did Barbarian, which was great. His next thing is a Resident Evil movie. When I heard about that, I'm like, Resident Evil? I was like, that's weird, because there's been talk. I don't know if I mentioned it, but there's been talk maybe, I don't know how there's any truth to this, but there's saying, what about a Weapons prequel? If you want, and I don't want to say anything about the movie, but there's this lady Gladys. What's her backstory? What did she do before this movie started? Where was she at before? What town, or what was she doing, or whatever? And that could be tricky. It could work. It could be interesting. But he's doing Resident Evil next. And when I heard it, I was like, Resident Evil. I mean, I love Resident Evil stuff, But I'm also like, man, how many reboots have we had? And I think what I'm tired is like every time we get something, I've been okay with them. Like the Netflix show, I watched it. It wasn't perfect. I watched them all. I binged the entire thing because I remember, I don't know what I was doing, but it was like, I think it was like summer. So I was able to, that was crazy for me. And then the show gets canceled or doesn't get renewed. So it's like, I was like, man, I watched the movie Welcome to Raccoon City, whatever. That was fine. I don't really remember that much now. I'm blocking stuff out maybe or whatever. But that was fine. And so yeah, we keep getting this stuff, and then it doesn't go anywhere. But now the difference is this isn't necessarily like a reboot, whatever. This is like a side story. It's different characters. So it's not necessarily, I guess you could say it's not necessarily rebooting things or whatever, because it's like, okay, you know about Resident Evil from the games. That stuff exists. We're not going to touch on who's Leon or who's Claire or anything like that, or who's Jill. We're just going to be like, okay, Resident Evil, now we're here. I'm assuming, because what Zach Krieger said, that this is not going to be like Weapons or Barbarian. He's like, this is more rock'em sock'em is what he said. So I'm assuming that means there's going to be like more action or whatever. And it follows a person from point A to point B. So it could kind of be like in a game or whatever. And you're seeing this person go deeper and deeper into the depths of hell. It's just like, okay, that could work. So tell a Resident Evil story. Have the zombies, have the T-virus, have Umbrella Corps, whatever you want to do, whether it's in Raccoon City or it's some other, island or some other part, whatever. You can have your elements in the world, and then just have like, someone else. I don't even. I'm trying to come up with a name, like who would a character be, but it's just going to be stupid, so I'm not even going to try. And he said it's going to be like a love letter to the games because he really loves the games. That's great. That's encouraging. That's exciting. So we have that to look forward to. And then the last bit of news is Deadpool going to be in Avengers Doomsday. Ryan Reynolds posted the Avengers symbol with like anarchy spray painted over it. No caption or anything like that. So does that mean he's going to be in Deadpool Doomsday? Is he just trolling people? Like, hey, I'm just posting this. Why not? It's not an official announcement if you're just posting. Like, if I post a picture of Burger King, doesn't mean I'm endorsing Burger King. I'm going to go to Burger King. It's just, I just posted a picture of Burger King because I felt like it or whatever. So we don't know. And, even if he is going to be, it doesn't mean he's going to be joined Avengers. He's just may have an appearance there. Avengers Doomsday, I have no idea what to expect, what's going on. We have all these people, people returning, multiverse or whatever. I don't know, but I'm down with it. And what Ryan Reynolds has said, that he's like, no, there's not going to be a Deadpool 3 anytime soon. And he's like, one, I don't think he wants to commit to the time that it would take with that, because he, very importantly, wants to spend time with his family, with his kids. That's great. That's amazing. And he also said that you can't do another one. It has to be, or he said, he's not going to join Avengers because you need something that tears him apart. It's like tearing him down. Because if he wins, if he achieves his dreams or whatever, then what's the point type of thing, then he loses his appeal. So he may, and if he's going to appear in this, he could just do like a couple weeks of shoots or whatever. He doesn't have to be there an entire time. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm down with it. Let's go ahead and, incorporate him into it. We just had that happen. So yeah, why not? And why not you keep on listening, because there's plenty more to talk about, but that's the news for the week. With comic books, this was kind of a weird week, it seemed like. At Image, and here's the thing, so I'll just start off right away. I don't think I read it. There wasn't a whole lot that happened at Image. I just lost my list. Let's see what this says. Yeah, this says that Geiger 17 came out. I don't think that is true. I Hate Fairyland 43 came out. I haven't read that because I'm behind. I keep saying that. I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer #5. Oh, that's 5 of 5 came out, and crap, I did not read that. I have the issue. I haven't read that. Transformer 23, I'm kind of not really reading that. So wait, what happened to Geiger? I don't have Geiger. I didn't get Geiger. Geiger 17, did that come out? I don't know if that's true. What I did read is Unchosen #2. So this is the comic written and directed by David Marquez. And this is an interesting book. It's a little hard for me because there's stuff with magic and whatever, this other world. So I feel like I have kind of a block on that because it's a little fantasy-ish, not really. But it's an interesting premise where we get this girl and we don't know like what she's capable of, and she doesn't know what she's capable of, and she's kind of, I don't want to give too much away, but she was brought to this school, and she's supposed to be like really powerful, but she can't do like what some of the other kids are doing. And of course, being a school, there's going to be some kids that are pieces of crap, and yeah, so she starts to get some answers here, which is kind of interesting because she doesn't think she should be there, and then this one kid's like, well, you never get to leave here, and they're like, that's not true. But you should check it out. It's amazing art, and it's brand new world. I mean, it's crazy, big things, and that's what makes it exciting because it's like at this point anything goes. You don't know what's gonna happen. Versus you have a Superman comic, you have an idea who's gonna survive and who's gonna win and stuff like that. So you should check that out. At Marvel, here's another one. I started reading Bring on the Bad Guys Red Skull. I didn't finish it because I forgot to finish it. It has nothing to do. I'm not super crazy about these books, being honest. But that's not why I didn't finish it. Well, it wasn't. I was like, it's not the first Marvel comic I'm going to read. And when I go through a stack, it's like no. But it's another one. Apparently, Red Skull made some deal with Mephisto because what I started, he's supposed to kill some dude. He's supposed to get his soul. He kills him, and Mephisto's like talking to him through this magic mirror or something like that. And he's like, because Red Skull's like, okay, we're done with our deal, and that was supposed to be Red Skull. And Mephisto's like, no, but I don't have his soul yet, whatever. And then there's like, he probably had like a dupe, someone. So I don't know where it's going to go, but I am kind of curious what kind of deal did Red Skull make with Mephisto, and yeah, so I need to finish that, but I didn't get to it. Daredevil 24 came out. This picks up from last issue. So Matt Murdock recently reconnected with an old girlfriend, and so what's kind of weird, I don't know if I'm missing something, because they got back together, and it's like, okay, hey, they got along, they're friends, and they weren't really looking for anything. Neither one was looking for anything like super serious. There's just, they were connected before, they connected again and stuff like that. But then what happened last issue, she's like, you keep disappearing, you keep doing stuff, I don't know what's happening, you need to move out. I can't live. But it's like, dude, you're not really committed to I mean, it's not like they're doing whatever they want, but it's just weird that I felt like they weren't looking to even put like a label on what they're just hanging out together and stuff like that. And yeah, so she throws him out, and it's like, where is he gonna go? Because he was living at as a pastor or whatever. Foggy, I don't think Foggy's talking to him. It's just a mess. But then they're still dealing with like the street gang stuff and that. So he's got plenty to keep him busy. Eddie Brock Carnage #7. I'm enjoying this series, even though I hate Carnage. But what's weird, what I don't like is, so you look at the cover, Muse is on there. I'm trying to remember. I just read that other Daredevil, the Elektra Daredevil comic, where Muse was dead, and he possessed this other girl, this artist, and made her Muse. So I'm trying to remember how that all ended, because Muse was in hell, Elektra went to hell, was like fighting him and everything. Did he escape too? Because now he's out in the world. He's alive again. And so many times, like a lot of these I talk about Bullseye. Bullseye's dead in Daredevil, but then Bullseye is in the Thing comic, which maybe that's just out of continuity. Bullseye was in the Old Man Daredevil comic, which I guess that's out of continuity. I just make up your mind. How many continuities do we have? And I know, don't worry about it. Just enjoy the story. But we got Muse here. The main thing is Eddie Brock and Carnage trying to get along. Carnage is getting weak. He needs to feed. He needs to kill, but Eddie Brock doesn't want to kill. And but Carnage is like, well, we could kill like someone who deserves to die, someone really despicable, and because Eddie Brock before was killing animals, and Carnage is like, that's not the same, and then there's people trying to figure out who Carnage is or whatever. So there's a lot, but something about it is just it's holding my interest, and I'm assuming it's because Charles Soule is writing it. And I enjoy what he writes. So he's doing something. He's doing the impossible. He's making me read a friggin' Carnage comic. Because if you know, I cannot stand Carnage. But I'm really curious about what's going on here. I can't believe it. Fantastic Four, number 2. So this is continuing the One World Under Doom story, which this is going on forever. So Dr. Doom, because he's such a doo-doo head, he sends Fantastic Four across time, basically. He separates them. He's like, I'm going to use my magic because I'm a big baby, and rather than actually come up. I mean, did he really defeat them? He had to use the magic, the powers that he has acquired as being the Sorcerer Supreme, and he sends them across time, all across, like what Ben was like in way prehistoric era. But the key is what the Fantastic Four did to prepare if this ever happened. They had this like forever stone, this rock that was buried, and there's like stuff in there. So if they're ever stranded across time, they could like leave a message on there. And what's interesting, this is where it kind of like breaks your mind or whatever. So Ben sets this message, and he's gonna die there. Because if he's like 65 million, whatever, I don't remember how many years back he is, but if he enters this message, whatever, for them, he needs to wait for the rest of the team to find us, and then whoever's next, and so you live your whole life, but then once it's all set and click, you turn this, you go back, you can go right. You're breaking time, you're erasing time, you're changing there, because instead of Ben growing old and living out, however, I don't know what his life expectancy, does he live longer because he's stoned, or is he going to have food to eat? But however many years or decades, okay, that happened, but we're going to go back to like 2 seconds after he sent the message and pick him up and say, hey, let's go back. So you're changing time, the time with that, I don't know. But Dr. Doom is, he does something else, and it's just like, oh my goodness. Okay, here's one I didn't read. I was going to read the Giant Size X-Men. I'm so tired of these. I love Kamala Khan, but I just cannot get into these books. And so I don't even, what was this about? M-Day, I think, and I didn't read it. And this was because I forgot to read it. I put it off. I was like, I'm going to read that later. It'll be like the last comic I read, maybe, or one of the last ones. And then I totally forgot about it. So I can't even tell you. Maybe I can now. It's like, I don't even know, is there something after this? This might have been the last one. Maybe. I think so. So I think that puts an end to it. So I don't know, maybe I'll check it out at some point. Laura Kinney, Wolverine, number 9. We got Gabby on the cover. I love Gabby. She's great. This comic was weird. So it's Erica Schultz, I think she's been writing this series, right? But this feels like it went back in the original direction as it should have been. The other issues, I've enjoyed them, and Laura teaming up with Bucky Barnes, that was cool and everything, which leads to her being in the new Avengers, Thunderbolt, whatever that comic is called. But there's something about this with Gabby and Jonathan there that it felt like it took us back, or took me back to the previous volume of X-23 or Wolverine or whatever it was called. So there's some fun things. The only thing that's not so fun is something bad has happened to Gabby, and we need to figure that out. So I'm a little concerned about that. Magic number 8 came out. I didn't read this because I'm still not. I read. I think it was last issue I read, and I was like, I don't really know what's going on, and I don't really care what's going on. But I really like Magic. I can't get into that. And see, that's the same thing with Unchosen. Maybe there's something I don't like about Magic. I don't know. There's a lot I don't like about this next one. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 36. I think this is the end of the God War stuff, right? Oh my God! So it's like Ares versus Anansi, and Miles and his team fighting Ares and his team. Oh my God, I just do not like this. But I did read this. There is some promise where maybe, I doubt it. I can't even get my hopes up anymore. But some things ran their course or whatever. So maybe we'll be getting closer to right on track. I don't even know. But oh my gosh, I remember when I used to enjoy Miles Morales comics. New Champions number 8. I'm not reading that. Who's reading this? As I keep saying, I feel like this is not for me. So this is by Steve Fox, Ivan Fiorelli. I just feel like with all these young characters, I don't have a connection to them. I don't care about them. And I mentioned it before. I don't want to just keep saying it. But it just feels weird that these characters are like, I like Moon Knight, so I'm going to be Moon Knight Squire or whatever, and I'm not getting approval. Because when you do that, I'm just repeating myself, it's like you're telling the world that you have that character's approval. And no, because what happened with like Spider-Boy. Everyone's like, Spider-Man, why do you have a 10-year-old sidekick that you're putting him in danger? And he's like, what? No, I'm not, because he didn't remember that. So I don't know. Spider-Man Wolverine number 4. I feel like, this is just the same thing, like over and over again. So they're fighting, but then they get teleported away. And did Wolverine kill Spider-Man's parents? He doesn't know. We don't know yet. I'm sure it's probably going to come out to like, nope, you didn't. But what I will say, what was cool about this issue is someone pops up at the end that we'll see in the next issue. I don't know if they're on the cover or not. And that they're like, yeah, Wolverine killed them. It's weird because this other character, I'm so fascinated with this character, and for some reason we don't really see a lot of this character. I'm not really sure why, because I guess it's kind of tricky, what to do. But yeah, so we'll see what's going to happen there. Then we have the Ultimates number 15. So as you can see in the cover, we got like some Iron Fist stuff. And yeah, I wasn't super crazy about this. We got 3 months remaining after this. I mean, there's some violence, or gruesome, not really gruesome, but some people don't do so well. So if you're reading into it, you should definitely check that out. Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. This is Miles Morales, and it's still something is off. So Miles Morales is in this new Ultimate universe, and it's not his Ultimate universe, but he's like thinking back to it. He's like, he knows somehow, that's just be such a weird thing. I was in this universe, and then now it was all erased, but now I'm in this other universe. I mean, he knows about the multiverse, but how much does he know or remember about his past life and that? But what's interesting here is because they're kind of connecting stuff or whatever, it's just like a crossover sort of. He's met with the ultimate X-Men characters. And he knows who the X-Men are, but he's not really sure who they are necessarily. And then you got a whole language barrier because he doesn't speak Japanese, and the whole reason he's there is because he's trying to get his little sister, Billy, right? That's her name. And yeah, so I don't know. I do want to read this, Uncle Scrooge, Earth's Mightiest Duck. I have no idea it's a kind of like an epic comic or cover. But I'm not really sure. I don't even know what the synopsis but I like Uncle Scrooge, and I used to read some comics, so I need to read that when I have time. X-Men number 20. So this is the Jed MacKay comic. Who did this cover or issue? Is it Heath Diaz or Neitho? I can't see if that's an H or an N. Man, I need glasses, I think. And the cover is Ryan Stegman, so that's kind of misleading. It's like, oh, Ryan Stegman's back. No, he's not. This one, so you got that dude. I don't like this guy. The dude that's like in charge of One, the local dude, him and Cyclops like get into it. And I guess he has good reason, but he basically, the very first page, he slugs Cyclops. He walks in a diner and he like slugs him. It's like sucker punch. It's like, oh, you're cool because you do that. And another thing, like, are you an idiot? What I don't like is, they get in this fight. I don't care if this guy is a leader of One or is a trained soldier or some government, whatever. It's like Cyclops has been fighting since he was a teenager. He has had immense hand-to-hand combat training. I'm sure they must have even like psychically uploaded some, like Matrix style, teaching him how to fight. And yeah, he got his butt kicked by Storm when she didn't have powers, but whatever. He was going easy on her. The fact that he gets sucker punched and he puts up a good fight, but he does get hit again. I don't know about that. Yeah, they're fighting and the fact is, dude, you're fighting. Don't fight in a diner. Take it outside. Don't like smash tables and stuff like that. That's not cool. I almost like swore. Oh man. But it's I enjoyed the comic. At DC Comics, Action Comics number 1089. So this is going back. This is a Superboy stories, Mark Waid, and what happened last issue is someone like knocks on the Kent door. They're like, yeah, I know Clark Kent is Superboy, and then what's going to happen after that? So we're still. I'm enjoying this comic. I don't know how I feel about the fact that they're incorporating Superboy into the regular DC continuity. I don't understand how there was no crisis to make this suddenly happen, and it's like DC's just saying, "Hey, this happened now. We're gonna do this," and it's like saying all of a sudden, yeah, Batman grew up with a hamster, and he took it everywhere until it died of old age, but we never heard about it before. Or what? I don't know. So it's kind of I maybe I just have a fondness for the old Silver Age Superboy comics that I always try to pick them up when I go to the comic conventions, but they're usually like depending on the condition, and I sometimes get like really bad, not really bad, but kind of bad conditions because I don't want to spend more than $10 for a comic, but these are classic, they're amazing, and they're always wacky. So I think my nostalgia for that, my fun for that is the reason I'm enjoying this, seeing Superboy. But it's kind of weird, and yeah. So there's some fun things, and then this dude that knocked on the door. I don't want to say anything more, but there's definitely something there. Then we had Superman, the Kryptonite. What was this called? Some Spectrum something. I started reading this. I think this is by W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo. I started reading it. The art was a little off sometimes. I felt like I'm trying to think who was like similar. It's a little Frank Quietly maybe, but a little someone else. It's like not straight up traditional art. And I don't want to say it's wonky, but it's a little and you know, I don't mean that in a bad way, because you know, sometimes when you get the art that is a little non-traditional, that makes it more fun or exciting or stand out from other things. But this is like an out of continuity book, and you know, because like Lex Luthor is back at, you know, he's at Luthor Corps and stuff like that. That's fine. But this was just, it was a long issue. So one, it's like, man, I don't even want to read all this. And we get a little recap on the kryptonite, the different kinds. But then it turns out there's some new kryptonite. And you know, Lex Luthor, he wants to know all about them. And I just like, I don't feel like reading this. Maybe someday I'll read the rest, but it was hard. And that's, it's happening to me more and more lately, where, and I brought this up before, is it just me, or, you know, what is going on? Why am I not getting excited? You know, Green Lantern Corps, I love Green Lantern Corps, you know, like especially during like Jeff Johns, you know, Hal Jordan, all those Green Lanterns, all those, oh my gosh, those are so fun. But here, I felt a little confused. I mean, maybe I probably didn't read issue 6, or I skimmed it, but it seems like some people lost their emotions. Maybe did I read that, skim that correctly, and is like trying to, you know, get them back. And but what I will say is, Green Lantern readers, fans, I mean, you probably should read this one, because some pretty big stuff happens at the end, which is, I don't want to spoil things, but it's establishing or doing some stuff. I mean, it's bigger than just the Green Lantern Corps. You know, it's all this whole corner of the DC universe, whatever. There's gonna be some big impacts there. Let's see, when we had Batman Gotham by Gaslight, I don't know, I haven't read any of that. Supergirl number 4. So there was that girl from Kandor. So I don't know if I mentioned that before. She was kind of posing it as Supergirl. She kind of like stole her life type of thing, was doing stuff, and then Supergirl came, and you know, they're calling her fake, you know, and all this stuff like that. And obviously, Kara resolved that, exposed her, and stuff like that. Takes her back to Kandor, and this other whatever Kryptonian's kind of in trouble and stuff. But Kara steps up, and she's like, hey, how about as part of sentence, like, you know, she do some serve her time or whatever, but have her come out in the world with me, and I'll kind of be her, you know, her mentor, and try, you know, teach her, you know, what it's like to be a hero and stuff like that. And she's like, why are you doing this for me after everything I did? And it's because Kara's a amazing person. You know, she's so kind and cool. So we have that aspect of, you know, her out in the real world. But then they go in this other thing. They go out because there's this like goth night something, yeah, and then they have to deal with someone that comes up. So it was all right. Trinity, daughter of Wonder Woman. Yeah. So we got. It's interesting because, you know, she's Trinity, and we have 3 different versions of Trinity from across time. You know, they're mucking it. We got little girl Trinity, kind of like preteen, and then like mid-teen, late teen Trinity, and the older one is like talking about this one incident, and I feel like I missed it. It's like, one, I don't remember why there's 3 of them here, how they were able to come out through time. But then this older one kept doing something, kept messing up, and then having to go back, and it's like, well, okay, that person died. I have to go back and try to save them. Oh, they died again. Oh, they died, you know, and just keeps going back and trying, and it's just like, it makes it a little weird and wacky, but it's like, you can't do that. You know, that's not okay. And yeah, so I don't know. And part of me, it's like, okay, where's this going? Because, you know, this is just, happening and happening. So I don't know about that. But, you know, I like the character, but it's just, And the other thing, which I'm still not clear, because I've been reading Wonder Woman and everything, but I'm still confused. Is Steve Trevor, because I'm assuming, I'm under the assumption that Steve Trevor is dead. How did he die? And when did he die, I guess is my thing. Because it seemed like maybe he was dead, but then he was back. And I don't know if that was a flashback, the whole Amanda Waller, the absolute power stuff, where he was there. Yeah, so that confused me. That's pretty much all I read, because then there's Batman and Robin 24. This was what was the story arc called? I think it was like part 5 of something. Was it part 5 or part 2? And I was just like, yeah. I'm surprised. I can't believe I'm not reading Batman and Robin. It's just crazy that I can't get into it. Batman Dark Patterns. This is a Dan Watters comic, which I miss it. Issue 9. How I did not realize it was that far along. We got Aquaman number 8. I only read the first issue. Fire and Ice. I wasn't reading that, and that was it. So that is the comic books for the week.
Okay, Dexter, season 1, episode 5. So it's the show is moving along, and I like that. It's progressing. There's little minor things that kind of bug me, and I don't know if I'm nitpicking at certain things, but I'm enjoying it for the most part. And I mentioned last week, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Just all the special guests or whatever you want to call them. It's kind of crazy. It almost feels like a lot, having Kristen Ritter and Neil Patrick Harris. What's his name? But it's crazy. And so last week, I wasn't sure when Dexter's going to finally talk to Harrison, because it felt like he's been at New York. He's just watching him. He's not really talking to him. And then it's like, he's like distracted. He's doing his own thing, dealing with this serial killer club society, not even worrying about his kid still being a suspect. And he doesn't even have an idea, because there's no way he can know how serious, where they're at. And he has no idea. Batista's talking to the police now. All right, let's get started. All right, so season 1, episode 5, Murder Horny. So Harrison stands outside police precinct, and then Dexter's like, Harrison, don't. And, because Dexter puts his hand in, he stops him, and then he turns to him, he's like, Dad? So this is where last week's ended. And he's like, you're dead. I shot you. And Dexter's like, I know this is a lot to process. Let's take a walk. And then he shoves him. Harrison shoves Dexter away. And he's like, how the fudge are you still here? How'd you find me? And he's like, I promise I'll answer all your questions, just not here. Because then, later he's walking, it hurt his chest. He friggin' got shot in the chest, and you shove. Plus the fact that it's your dad and you're shoving your dad. One, because he saw him before, he keeps seeing Ryan. So he probably shoved him out of instinct. Like, is this just am I going crazy? I'm seeing my dad. I'm seeing this dead body that this guy killed. So they drive to his place, below Blessing's family. And then Harrison's like, are you stalking me? Which is like, you're such an idiot. Dexter's like, no, I care about you. I moved here to watch over you. And he's like, how the fudge are you alive? And he's like, good question. The ice cold weather slowed my heart rate, and I didn't bleed out, but I was in a coma for 10 weeks. He's like, the doctor said, and then Harrison's like, you're like a GD horror movie villain, like Michael Myers or the fudging guy in the hockey mask. He says the guy who killed someone with a toilet bowl cover, toilet tank cover, whatever you want to call it. He's like, you think they're dead? And Dexter says to himself, he's like, there certainly are some similarities. So he's like, here, have a seat. He's like, how was something to drink? And then Harrison's like, why aren't you in jail? And he's like, Chief Bishop cleared me of all charges. Logan shot at me. I was unarmed. She even determined, it was self-defense. He's like, you have no idea what that day in the woods did to me. So he finally sits on the sofa. And then Dexter's like, Harrison, it was me. I made you shoot me. I told you to take the safety off. I even pointed at my heart. But I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that to you. And Harrison's like, that poop's been stuck in my head. I've been so fudged up. And he's like holding Ryan's watch now. And Dexter's like, I know about Ryan Foster. It's how I tracked you down. The body chopped up into 9 parts, the bags, just like I taught you. I understand what you're going through. When I was in college, there was this frat guy, a lot like Ryan, predator, rapist. He tried to assault your Aunt Deb. And we see a flashback. I don't know if we saw this flashback before or not. Maybe, I don't remember. But there's like a college party, and this dude had, Deb is like passed out on the bed, and this guy in the bedroom, obviously, and he yells to Dexter's like, "Get the fudge out of here!" But then Dexter grabs the guy from behind, and he like punches him in the face more than once, because then it like cuts to he's got like bloody knuckles, and it must have moved out to the living room. Again, I don't remember, because there's like other people around, and he sees like a knife that's being used to cut limes for tequila, and he kind of goes to reach for it, but then I guess he got tackled by Deb, because she must have like woken up and stopped him. And Dexter's like, "If she hadn't stopped me, I would have done the same thing you did. So trust me, I get it. I was just like you when I was your age. I felt that same darkness. I thought about killing all the time too. It wasn't until my first kill." Then there's a flashback. He's like, "I was like 20 years old that I felt finally that release." And Harrison's like, "Release?" He's like, I'm in hell. I have nightmares about killing Ryan. I see his face everywhere." And then he's like, the watch he holds up. He's like, this was his. And all I hear is fudging ticking all the time. And I can't live with it. I can't carry this guilt. And that's why I went to turn myself in. So Dexter thinks, he's like, maybe we're not as alike as I thought. So he's like, "Harrison, think about how many more women Ryan would have hurt if you hadn't intervened." And Harrison's like, "Intervening would have been calling security, not bashing someone's head in with a toilet tank cover. Like, you tried to nurture something in me that wasn't, if you weren't you, I never would have killed Ryan." It's just like, okay, way to push the guilt. He's like, he's blaming Dexter. And is there some genetic, see, I don't even know if you can say there's a genetic desire to kill. Dexter's reason for killing is because his mom was killed in front of him when he was an infant, and he was left in a tank or like a storage thing, whatever thing, in like a puddle of blood. Maybe, I don't know, but whatever. So Dexter's like, "There's more to who you are than your worst moment." And Harrison's like, "Is that what you told yourself when Mom was murdered?" He's like, "Okay, how about Aunt Deb, Captain La Guarta?" He's like, "La Guarta? What are you talking about?" Then he's like, "Batista, I talked to him this morning. You're not the only one who tracked me down." And Dexter thinks, he's like, "Looks like I'm officially Batista's white whale." So Harrison's like, "He was trying to get me to confess that you're really the Bay Harbor butcher. He even implied that you trained me." Harrison's like, "What did you say?" He's like, "I told him nothing." And Dexter like sighs. He's like, "Don't worry, Batista doesn't have anything. I talked to him like a week ago in Iron Lake." And Harrison's like, "But that means he let me think you were dead?" I don't even know what to believe anymore. Because, but Batista like went along with it and same thing. And Harrison's like, "Batista's just trying to manipulate you." And Harrison's like, "Maybe, but that doesn't mean that everything he said was a lie." He's like fidgeting with the watch. So Dexter's like, "Here." She's like, "Let me take that. Let me carry it for you." So Harrison actually hands it over and sighs. And then Dexter's like, "You want to grab a bite?" He's like, "What?" He's like, No. He's like, "You don't just get to come back from the dead and act like everything's okay." He like scoffs slightly. He's like, "What makes you think I even want you in my life?" He's like, "I gotta go." He gets up, heads to the door, and Dexter's like, "Harrison, wait." But then Harry like pops in. He's like, "It's going to take more than just a conversation, Dex." And he's like, "What am I supposed to do?" He's like, "I don't know." And then we see like Harrison walking down the street. So we see Prater talking to some people. He mentions that he spent a lot of time in a foster home, because there's this, like, in this picture, this lady, she's actually a reporter, and I didn't recognize her at first. She's like a CBS, longtime CBS reporter. She's 60 Minutes and stuff like that. So she's going to interview him, and she's like, "Foster home?" She's like, "Poop." She's like, "I thought you came from daddy money." And, she says that he must have pulled himself from the bootstraps or whatever, high to get where he is. I almost felt like there was a height comment there, which didn't seem appropriate, but probably not. He says that he also had a lot of help, which is why it's so important for him to give back. He's like, "I paid off the mortgage on my foster family home." He's like, "And after I made my first $1 million, since then, I paid off the mortgage of every family who's ever adopted a child from that home." And she's like, "We really need to talk about that in an interview." And he says he'd prefer to keep that off the record, if that's okay. But it's like, and she's like, "Well, this is people need to know what he's doing." But okay, he's saying that if someone adopts a kid from a foster home, he's going to pay off their house. But then if word got out, then vultures are going to be like, let's go adopt some random kid here, have their house paid off, and treat the kid like crap. I mean, unfortunately, from what we hear the stories, there's always people who have horrible foster homes, where people are just collecting the checks and the kids have miserable lives. So you can't tell someone, it's like, oh yeah, hey, adopt a kid and get a free house. It's not a good idea. So it's like, are you an idiot? I couldn't believe when, she was like pushing that. I get what she's saying that, he's doing this amazing thing and people should know. It's just like, the Taylor Swift stuff. She helps people all the time. She doesn't advertise it. And, she doesn't need to. But, sometimes it comes out and people are like, oh, she's just doing that for the attention. It's like, no, she's not. And it's just like, he's doing this. He's not doing it for the attention. Harrison's walking while listening to like some loud music. Then he gets a call from NYPD and he curses. He answers it. It's Detective Wallace. And she's like, you called at 9:03 a.m. Did not leave a voicemail. And it's like, oh, no kidding. He's like, wow, you're such a genius because you can, track the phone records. She makes it sound like she's this super, a detective. She knew exactly when he called. It's like, of course, there's going to be a record when, you call in if you didn't block your number or whatever. He's like, yeah, I changed my mind. I don't think that I actually. She's like, I feel like this conversation is more effective in person. And it's like, what? He has absolutely nothing better to do. He could be working. He could be going to the dentist or something like that. And she's like, come by my office. And he's like, yeah, it's really not a good time. I'm actually pretty busy. She's like, well, I can come to you. What's your current location? Home? Work? And then this is what's so annoying. This is like just so despicable. But, why she doesn't care because she thinks that he's scum. But she's like, because she's like homework. She's like, I suppose those are the same. Remind me, your boss does not know that you live in a hotel, correct? So it's like, she's such a piece of crap. She's basically blackmailing him because he's in this bad situation. He's like, never mind. I can stop by their precinct this afternoon. So then we see Dexter driving your car. There's a couple in back. He's like, Harrison doesn't want me. I don't have any real friends. There is a woman with whom I have a lot in common. She's not bad looking either. So he's talking about Mia, Kirsten Ritter. So he drops a couple off and he sees a sign for Swan Lake production. So he calls Mia. She's like, oh, I didn't think I'd hear from you. So he apologized for leaving so suddenly the other day. He wants to make it up. He says they're doing a Swan Lake at the Lincoln Center. He's like, do you want to go? He's like, I just figured, because he liked ballet. She's like, that sounds terrible. And he's like, okay, sorry. She's like, Swan Lake is a ballet that you go to when you want to take a nap with 2,000 other people also taking naps. And she's like, what else you got? So then they go bowling. So he's like, all those countless nights at the bowling alley are about to pay off. He bowls, he gets a split. Or not. She says that he's a better bowler than runner, but that's not the highest bar. And he's like, well, I still have another throw. And she's like, yeah, but the 7-10 split is the hardest shot. And he bowls, he gets it. He hits the one, it slides across, that's the other one. He's like, yes. But he hurt his arm or, he pulled something or whatever. And, probably from his chest still hurting like that. So he's like, that hurt, but it was worth it. And then he's like, the only way you can beat me is if you bowl a strike. And he's like, no pressure. She bowls a strike. So they said after, he's like, in my defense, I'm rusty and my shoulder's been bothering me. She's like, you really don't like losing, do you? And he's like, who likes losing? She's like, well, I'm just glad I met someone else who likes bowling. He's like, what, you don't have any bowling buddies back home? She's like, I move around a lot, so it's hard to make buddies, especially in our line of work. He sighs. He's like, yeah, I can relate. She's like, yeah, I figure you were from here that you would at least have family in New York. And he's like, just a son who hates me and a dead dad who lives in my subconscious. But he's like, it's complicated. As much as I'd like to be in my family's life, I don't know if that's possible. And she's like, I get it. She's like, I don't have a relationship with my sister or mother. Haven't for years. And he's like, because of what happened? And she's like, pretty much. Hazel never got over the feeling that I abandoned her when I left for the dance academy. But I don't blame her. I left her alone with our mom's boyfriend. And after I handled the situation, I could never tell her the truth. It sucks when you can't be honest about who you are with the people you're closest to because you know that they would turn their back on you. Dexter's like, it's hard to find someone who sees the world the way we do. And she's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, is that the appeal of Prater's group for you? People who see the world the same way? And she's like, those guys are fine, except Lowell. He's a dick. And Dexter's like, was? He thinks that. And she's like, but I've never spent time with any of them outside of Prater's dinner party until now. He's like, And we see Harrison's at the precinct, and he's like, Shauna just looks so upset by what happened with Ryan, and so I wanted to apologize for not doing more to help. And so that's why I called, to get her number. She's like, why not get her number from the hotel? Surely you have access to that information. He's like, well, I'm a bellhop. I don't have access to anybody's personal information. She's like, your boss wouldn't help under these very traumatic circumstances? He's like, Stefan's not exactly my biggest fan. He wouldn't lift a finger to help me. She's like, and you thought that I would? He's like, well, yeah, kinda. And she's just like staring at him without like saying a word. I feel like, I don't know if there's supposed to be something off with her, because she is like so emotionless. So I don't know if she's like on the spectrum or something, and I don't want to judge anything, but she just seems like so cold. And I get she's a detective and she's just doing her job and she's good at her job, and she just wants to put away evil criminals, whatever the horrible people. They don't deserve any pity. But the whole thing with the headphones and how she gets into zones, and so I feel like there's just something, but she's just has no sympathy whatsoever. And there's not even a possibility. I don't know if she really thinks he's obviously he did it, but she doesn't. I don't think she really believes he did it, that he's capable of doing it. But she's like doesn't even care that the possibility that he didn't do it. So he's like, well, I wish I said or did something that night. Maybe Shauna wouldn't have ended up in Ryan's room. He's like, I felt so guilty when I found out, who that guy was. And she's like, guilty. That is an interesting word choice. I often find that the best predictor for future behavior is past behavior. According to the Iron Lake Gazette, your behavior was downright heroic. So she printed out like an article. It's like, tragedy averted. Heroic student stops potential school shooting. She's like, some might even say that you have a hero complex. He's like, no, that's why I want to talk to Shauna. I wasn't a hero. I let her down. I let myself down. And she's like, maybe we should discuss your time in Iron Lake. He's like, look, could you just give me your phone number? It's the only reason I called. She's like, we do not give out victims' personal information, especially not to potential suspects. He's like, suspect? I'm still a suspect? Yes. And he's like, am I allowed to leave? And she's like, of course. You are not under arrest. Yet. So he gets up. Okay, then it's time for Prater's interview. So it's the 10th year he's done this like charity event. And I think she said there's like only 200 tickets available. She's like, toughest show to get into. And she's like, any surprises? Any celebrities coming? He's like, of course, but the true guests of honors will be the wounded officers. Because it's like some, police, charity thing or something like that. So she asked, given the recent complaints about the police department, what explains, his continued financial support. And he says that his support comes from a deeply personal place. He's like, when I was a young boy, both my parents were killed by a drunk driver. I was in the back seat. And if it hadn't been for those brave officers, I sighs. He's like, it was a formative time in my life. The gala actually takes place on the anniversary of my parents' death. So it's weird that, he wants to help the police. He believes in what they do. They helped him, but he's also helping out serial killers. And his parents were killed by a drunk driver, not killed by a serial killer. So it's like, there's no connection there. So where did, this, if it was a formative time, where did unless we're going to find out, maybe, but it's like, what is his fascination with serial killers? And the fact that he knows that they're going out there, like Lowell's talking about going out and skinning someone's new tattoo, and which would, he's probably going to kill them to do it. And he's totally fine, doesn't care. So I'm really curious about that. Mia and Dexter walk out of the bowling alley. She asks which way he's going. So they're going opposite directions. And he's like, I guess this is goodbye. And she's like, or I heard about this new wine bar. You want to check it out tonight? He's like, yeah, I'd love that. And she's like, I'll text you the address. He's like, okay. And she's like, have you ever considered a menage a trois? And he's like, shouldn't it just be the two of us at least for the first time? And she's like, I meant on the job. And she's like, oh my God, Red, I'm talking about collaborating on a kill, 2 against 1. And she's like, think about it. Could be fun. So he thought she was talking about sex. At his place, he puts a frozen margarita mix thing on his shoulder. Harry says that, he was thinking about Mia's proposal, and Dexter's jokes about them, taking on evildoers. Harry says, sounds like a perfect match. And Dexter's like, you're fudging with me, aren't you? And he's like, Dex, when did teaming up with another killer ever work for you? He lists like a couple whatever that I guess Dexter tried, in the first series. Dexter says, they weren't real killers. Mia's different. Harry says that, but she thinks that he's Red. There's got to be something wrong with her if she wants to kill with a sicko who saws rideshare drivers' heads off. So he's like, well, there's something wrong with both of us. Stop acting like you're on my side. Maybe she's on my side. Maybe she does have a problem with it, which is why she asked me to join one of her kills. Or maybe I'll tell Mia who I really am. He's like, think how excited she'll be when she finds out we both have a code. And Harry's like, or maybe she'll tell Prater that you're the Bay Harbor butcher who killed over 150 serial killers, and you wind up on your brother's exsanguation table, the one that he has in his vault. And Dexter's like, I bet the margarita will work better if I drink it. Harry's like, you're only considering this with Mia because what happened with Harrison this morning. And he hears like a thud, and like Prudence outside. She's like, ah. So Dexter goes out. Prudence, Blessing's mom. So she stumbled on the stairs. She had her grocery cart. Dexter asks if she's hurt. She's like, no, just embarrassed. So he helps her inside. Blessing's like, what is, he's like all concerned and everything. He's like, did your vision get blurry? Did you black out? And he's like, don't tell me you skipped taking your medication again. She's like, I am fine. I tripped over that sidewalk crack that you keep promising to fix. So Blessing wants to take her to the hospital. He asks Dexter to bring his car around. He's about to, but then Prudence is like, I'm not going. He's like, you're making too big a fuss. So he stands. He tells Dexter she's been having these episodes ever since she stopped radiation therapy. And she says that the radiation does nothing but make her nauseous. And Blessing says that he guarantees falling and breaking her neck will feel a lot worse than nausea. But she says she doesn't want to talk about it. And if he wants to help, put the groceries away and make her some tea. So there's more arguing, and Blessing asks Dexter to talk some sense into her because he's going to go make tea. So he says that Dexter says that if she were his mom, he'd feel the same way. And she says that she's made peace with God's plan. She's 84 years old. She has seen the world. She's looked into the face of good and evil. And Dexter's like, and you are right now. She doesn't want to end her life in a tiny room surrounded by doctors and machines. She wants to be in a house where she raised family, where she welcomed friends. And he's like, you don't want to die alone. And she's like, exactly. Charlie she's in a hospital room, and it's like Mildred Brown. So she's looking at the chart, and it says glioblastoma. So it's her mom, and her mom kind of comes to, and she talks to her. And she's pretending she's a third grade teacher. She's talking about, it's like, oh, this one kid, did this thing. It was so amazing. So whatever. Maybe she was once upon a time, and then she got, she changed for Prater. Dexter at his place, he gets a package. It's a case for the slides, like a wooden case. And he comments himself. He's like, how they're clean and sterile and unused. He's like, but they suggest, promise, blah, 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 stuff like that. Then he apologizes to Lowell because the glass that he has, he's like broken glass. It's too big, doesn't fit. He's like, what I really need is a home for my new friends. So the daughter told him, behind the bookshelf there's like the coal chute or whatever it was, because at first he looks in the air conditioning. He opens up. He's like, not an inch of free space. So then he remembers Joy's hiding spot, for her weed. So he moves the shelf, and there's a little door. He's like, it's no secret vault, but it'll do. Then he hears Blessing and Prudence arguing some more. So Harrison's working. Dexter calls him, and he's like, what do you want? He doesn't even say hi or anything. Dexter's like, just calling to check how you're doing. He's like, I'm not ready to talk yet. Dexter's like, I'm sorry. It's like, I don't know what all the rules are. It's like, I just want to give you space. And Harrison's like, just do it. It's called boundaries. He's like such a baby. Dexter's like, can we meet up just for a bit? He's like, no. I've got too much poop going on, like the fudging Ryan Foster investigation. And Dexter's like, oh, still? He's like, well, what can I do to help? He's like, nothing. And he just hangs up. Mia teaches Dexter some wine lingo. They're at a bar, and they talk about legs. The longer the legs, the more alcohol or something like that. And I mean, I've always checked that. I think I went to a winery one time and they talked about the legs in there. So he takes a drink and she asks, what does he taste? So he says some stuff. Then she's like, well, close your eyes. And she's like, what does it make you feel? He's like, it reminds me of Miami after it rains. And she's like, have you spent a lot of time in Miami? And he's like, actually, I grew up there. And she's like, really? I thought you were one of those stubborn New Yorkers who spent, their whole lives within 5 city blocks. He's like, what else have you been hiding? He sighs. He's like, well, I've been thinking of, and then she's like, have you considered, at the same time, she's like, have you considered, so he's like, I've been thinking about what you asked me earlier, and I understand why you'd asked me to join you. There's probably a lot about how the dark passenger does things that makes you hesitant, especially since you clearly have a type. And I do too, but it's not what you think. And she's like, hey, whatever. It's okay. Honestly, I was going to say it would be fun to try it your way. And he's like, seems like a kind of small target to find a rideshare driver who's also a sexual predator. And she's like, any driver will do. He's like, but you only kill sexual predators. What about the story you told me about your mom's boyfriend? She sighs. She's like, sure, it started out that way. He was my origin story. And then the next few times, I targeted men like him because I wanted to create the rush of my first kill. But between us, I just enjoy killing. And when I have an itch, I scratch it. So he's like really taken aback. He's kind of like looking down and, not at her. And then she's like, what? Don't tell me you were into all that Lady Vengeance crap. And he's like, no, of course not. And she's like, good, because that's the media constantly trying to find some deep meaning in what I do. You and Al and Lowell don't have to have some noble reason for the people you choose to kill. And he's like, you're right. And she's like, what really annoys me? That society doesn't think that a woman could possibly just enjoy murder. She has to be some crusader, a victim who fights back. And Dexter's like, so your trophy, those men you killed were innocent? She's like, I mean, define innocent. She's like, but yeah, the media still labeled most of them as predators. But the truth is, I'm the predator. Dexter thinks, he's like, and I'm the idiot who didn't see that. And then she's like, are you sure everything's okay? And he thinks like everything is the opposite of okay. And he like laughs. He's like, everything's great. And she's like, good. Then let's do one of yours tonight. He's like, tonight? She's like, why not? Let's be spontaneous. Do you have everything you need? He sighs. He's like, I have a kill kit in my car. And she's like, oh, a kill kit. Very official. I just bring my victims back to my place. He's like, I'll get the check and you run out to your car. He's like, I'll meet you at the corner. So in his trunk, he gets a syringe ready. Harry's, there. He's like, I hate to say I told you so. And Dexter's like, then why'd you say it? Harry's like, what'd you expect, Dexter? There's no one else in the world like you. And, Dexter looks at Ryan's watch. Harry's like, I get it. You're disappointed. But Mia was never to answer. Harrison is. He's like, thanks, Dad. I'll take it from here. So they're walking down the sidewalk. He has this cap on. The hoodie's not up, but, he's wearing. At first, I was like, he doesn't have the hoodie on. So he thinks, he's like, this would be romantic if not for my date's enthusiasm over watching me decapitate someone. And she's like, so how does your saw work? Actually, no, I want to be surprised. And he's like, do you call your car? And he's like, no, you can't. You'd get caught. So do we just go up to a random one? And he's like, we should find a quieter street, one with fewer witnesses. And she's like, why? There are tons of rideshare drivers here. Plus, I'm the perfect cover. But, doesn't it like sometimes, doesn't it say, don't you have to enter how many passengers? So I don't know. She's like, drivers are on alert for a lone male passenger. No one's going to get sketched by a couple on a date. And then she bends over to the driver and she's like, hi. The driver's like, Trina? And she's like, that's me. And to Dexter, she's like, see, already a pro. Then Dexter like leans in the window. He's like, sorry, ours is an SUV. And he pulls her away. She's like, what was that? We were in. He's like, it wasn't. He's like, first of all, you don't have a hoodie like mine. Your face could wind up on camera. And she's like, oh, well, you should have said something earlier. I'm thinking you have a bad case of performance anxiety. He's like, yeah, kind of. He's like, I'm not ready to let someone else into my process. I'm used to operating alone. And she's like, so am I, but at least I'm open to new experiences. I thought you were too. First the shower and now this. You're a tease. It's like, I should have known that, you were too good to be true. Dexter thinks like that makes two of us. And she's like, whatever. You're allowed to change your mind. She's like, you got me all murder horny, so I'm going to go do my thing. I guess I'll see you at Prater's. So she starts to walk away, then turns around, and she's like, "Got to be honest. This is not how I wanted to end the night." He has a syringe in his head, and he's like, "It's already going to be suspicious when one of Prater's dinner guests disappears right after the new guy shows up. But two?" He's like, "When Harry's right, he's right." So he turns and walks in the opposite direction. So it's like, wait, so someone's going to get murdered, and now he's not going to do anything to stop it? So Mia, she walks up to this glass reflection, like fixes her hair, puts on lipstick. There's a dude standing at the door. I guess he's a bouncer, according to like the credits. He's like, checks her out. He's like, "Trust me, you look good." And she's like, "Trust me, I know." So he opens the door for her. He's like, "Don't have too much fun." She enters, scopes out the place, finds a target. She takes off her jacket, goes up, there's a guy sitting at a table, and she orders a drink for herself. And she's like, "Make it two, one for him too." The guy's like, "Oh, I could buy you a drink." And she's like, "Drinks on me. Whatever happens the rest of the night is on you." So Dexter has his hat and hoodie on. He's out in the hall. He's like, "I had hoped the night would end with me in Mia's apartment, but I didn't know I'd be breaking in." So he goes inside, and at first I was, he puts this like bottle of cleaner under the sink. I'm like, "Wait, what's he doing there?" And he's like, "Sometimes what seems like a dead end can lead to an unseen path." So he adjusts the curtains and stuff like that, whatever. And then and he looks across, like at the next building. And it's like, there's a light there. It's like, at first I'm like, is there a camera? It's like, why? What's going on there? Me and the dude arrive at her place. So he's across the street on that building, like the rooftop, like looking down, and he has like a perfect angle. The guy's like admiring the place. He's like, "Oh, are those original wooden beams?" And then she just grabs him, like pulls him into a kiss. And she takes off his tie clips. Dexter's like, another trophy for her jewelry box. She sets it down next to the jewelry box that's just sitting on a coffee table. And she's like, "Lose the clothes and I'll get us drinks." So he starts getting undressed, and she's like, "Wine okay?" He's like, "Oh, I'm not really a vino guy." And she grabs like a bottle, and she's holding it. She's going to use it at a club. And she's like, "And that is why you have to die." He turns right as she swings, bang, smacks her, and she sighs, and she looks at the bottle. It didn't break, so I don't know if she knew that, realized that, because that would have made a big mess. And she's like, "I've had enough red tonight anyways." So Dexter's like, "Sorry, mon ami, it'll all be over soon." Then he makes an anonymous call with like a fake New York accent. There's a guy screaming next door. I think some chick's trying to murder him. I heard her call herself Lady Vengeance or some poop. It's like, you got to send help." And they're like, "Sir, try and stay calm." "Stay calm my ass. The guy's fudging in trouble. There's a fudging Lady Vengeance. It's 758 Albany Avenue." Sorry, New Yorkers, if that was a horrible New York accident. I apologize. It's like 5th floor, hurry. And they're like, "Help is on the way. What's your phone number?" He hangs up. So inside, the guy's cuffed to this like big metal thing. He has a ball gag in his mouth. There's blood in his temple from where he got hit. He's in his whitey tighties, and she waits for him like to wake up. And he starts struggling. He's like muffling whatever, and she like touches his chest. She's like, "You're gonna be my first kill in New York City. Just your luck, huh?" So she has like several types of like on the table, the coffee table. There's like all these different pliers. There's a big blade. There's a hammer. There's a thing of lye. Like all this stuff on behind her, and then more muffled pleading. She's like, "Don't worry. Once the lye burns holes through your corneas, you won't be able to see what I'm about to do to you." She picks up like some tool. I'm not really sure. Oh, I think it's like to keep the eye open. She's like, "You will feel it though." So she starts moving it towards his eye. So I think it's to keep the eye open. So just whatever, prop it open. I don't know what it's called. But then the door busts open. "NYPD!" And they like run and they grab her. Dexter, like he's watching. He's like, "Just in time. New York's finest at their finest." So he sees her like on the floor trying to crawl away and whatever, like on top of her. Then later you can see there's an ambulance out front, the building. He sees her. Sees like the police put her in the back of a squad car. Inside, the detectives are either like putting trophies in a baggie. Like there's a dog tag and everything like that, evidence baggies. Then the detective turns over to watch, and Dexter's still watching. He's like, "Ryan Foster, serial rapist, you are now victim of Lady Vengeance. Even if I can't be in my son's life, at least I can make sure he has a life." So he puts on the hoodie and he leaves the rooftop. So Wallace is in the apartment, and the other dude asks her what she thinks. Hotel victims watch, and she's like, "Yes, it is." And he's like, "Chalk it up, another one up to Lady Vengeance." She's like, "I do not like that moniker." And the guy's like, real name, Mia Lapierre. Thanks to inscriptions and other identifiers, we've already been able to link several of these trinkets to her suspected Vicks. And Detective Oliva, he's in there too. He comes up with the bottle cleaner stuff that Dexter put in her sink. He's like, bet you $10 this is oxidized bleach. So good job, Dexter. Outside, she's like, I did not anticipate a serial killer. Oliva, I keep getting their names mixed up. He's like, well, in some way, your theory was right. Foster was murdered by someone with a hero complex who also had enough know-how to chop up and dispose the body. He's like, I do not think that makes me right, but I appreciate your attempt to commiserate. Try and find a way to get us an audience with Miss Lapierre as soon as possible. So Prater is eating and watching his interview. So the interviewer, she's talking about his wonderful home, and she hears that he's a wonderful chef. And she's like, this is a wonderful place for dinner party. I can only imagine the guests that you would have. It's almost like, dude, are you like just like begging to get an invite? You're so hungry to get in there. So Prater's like, you'd be surprised at who agrees to come to my humble abode. So again, so her name is Leslie Stahl. So again, from CBS News. And it makes sense, CBS, because this is Paramount, Showtime, it's all the same company, right? So it's like, why not use one of theirs? But I didn't realize that she was like an actual reporter because I'm a knucklehead. Charlie comes in while he's watching. She's like, sir, we've got to talk. She's like, I found where Mia's being held. So he already knows. So it's like, we didn't get to see his reaction when he found out. She's like, but there's a problem. I can't get to her, and the feds could move her at any moment. Prater's like, I hired you to make problems go away. Did I make a mistake? And he's just like, wow, he's like just cold with her. And she's like, no, sir, you did not. And he turns the TV back on. And it's like, how he's watching his own interview. And it's like, okay. Next day, Batista's in a hotel room. The TV shows, the Ryan Foster news conference, FBI dude is talking. Evidence suggests that Mr. Foster, the victim of last week's murder at the Empire Hotel, was killed by Mia Lapierre, a.k.a. Lady Vengeance. And Batista's like, WTF? And he mutes the TV. And on the wall, he has like maps and photos, Dexter and stuff pinned to the wall. News report continues. She's been arrested. She's being held without bail. So Elsa is watching in the break room. She sees Harrison out hall. She's like, hey, Harrison, come check this out. She's like, they arrested Ryan Foster's killer. And he's like, what? And she's like, and get this, it was a fudging serial killer. So he's probably thinking his dad. She's like, Lady Vengeance. Pretty wild to think one of the FBI's most wanted took out a hotel guest. And Harrison's like, how did they know it was her? And she's like, looks like one of Ryan's things was at her place, along with all this other stuff she kept from rapists she murdered. So then Harrison knocks on Dexter's door. And so Dexter opens it. And Harrison doesn't say hi or anything. He's just like, was it you? And Dexter's like, sorry if I overstepped your boundaries. And then Harrison's like, can I come in? He's like, of course. Then they're sitting, they're having coffee, and he pours them a cup. Dexter's like, so should I go first? And Harrison's like, having a serial killer arrested doesn't sound like you. And Dexter's like, yeah, no poop. He like sighs. He's like, I was recently reminded how important it is to have people in your life who truly know you. That's you, Harrison. And he's like, do I though? Do I really? Dexter's like, I was so surprised when your mom loved me. When you were born, I was scared to death. I didn't know how to have a family and still be me. Trinity seemed like a devoted husband and father. There's like a quick glimpse where Dexter sees him like outside watching him in their living room. He's like, I thought I could learn from him. Stupid. I let the line blur between Trinity being my mentor and my target. After I killed him, I came home and discovered he had already killed your mom. And there's like a quick flashback of, the blood in the bathtub and everything. She died because of my selfishness, because of my mistake, and it broke me. Harrison's eyes are like red, and he like slowly nods. And he's like, the truth, finally. And he's like, what's to stop innocent people from dying again because of you? He's like, I'm hoping the difference can be having you in my life. Harrison's like, but I'm not like you. And Dexter's like, I know, and I don't want you to be, not anymore. It's like, Harrison, that you almost turned yourself into the cops proves you have a goodness, a humanity that I never will. And Harrison's like, I wish I thought that. Dexter's like, it's true, and that's why I need you. I promise I won't try to mold you into my image ever again. He's like, I'm sorry, Harrison. He's like, I have so many reasons to kill, but you're my reason to live. I still want a family. And Harry's like standing behind Harrison. He's like, you're all I have. And Harrison like slowly like moves his hand, puts it on top of like Dexter's on the table. He's like, you're all I have too. And Harry's like, you did good. The guard opens the cell door, tells Charlie 10 minutes, and that's all she gets. Mia's sitting like cuffed to a table, which is like weird. It's not like in a interrogation room or whatever like that. It's like in a cell practically, whatever. She's like, the guard said I'd be talking to the lawyer. I didn't know you went to law school. And she's like, Harvard. And Mia's like, of course you did. What are you doing here? So Charlie sits across from her. I just wanted to look you in the eye to be sure. Mia's like, look, I fudged up. I know the game. I'm not going to ask for help if that's what you're worried about. And I'm certainly not going to do anything stupid like ask for money or make threats. Charlie's like, our mutual friend appreciates that. And we'll make sure that your time here is as comfortable and short as possible. And short as in kill her. But that is the end of the episode. So, yeah, she's... Charlie's going to take her out somehow, but she's just not sure how she's going to be able to do that. Because, that's what she took out that dude, the Canton slugger or whatever, and some other guy, Mia talked about. So I guess that's it for Kristen Ritter. We'll have to see. So 2 down as soon as she's done. So that was episode 5. All right, now Twisted Metal, season 2, episode 4, LZGTBZY. And I'm usually pretty good at these, but it's like I looked at like Liz gets biz. It's supposed to be let's get busy. Let's get busy. Now, this episode was kind of ridiculous in a way, and that's what makes this show fun. It's a little over the top. It is pretty ridiculous and everything. What I found out last week is I believe Peacock is dropping 2 episodes per week. And I think there's like 12 episodes. I think there's over 10. So I'm going to get like further and further behind. I don't know how many are out now, but I think 5, maybe 5 and 6. I don't know. Okay, Diesel City, one day until the tournament. We see some others like walking around. John's like, you want to steal a bunch of weapons out of this place? It's like, looks like you're going to need a plan to do that. Dollface is like, good thing I've got one. So she explains the cardinal rule is no violence. There's dozens of snipers in there that make sure of that. She's like, you die, it's from their bullet. Diesel City is for buyers only. So whatever gas you bring in is swapped out for in-house currency. And that's something you don't really think about that. If the world is all apocalyptic and everything outside is like wastelands or whatever, it's like, where does all the gas come from? Because there's no oil or gas refineries, however that comes out. So if gas is such a hot commodity, and I don't remember if they really addressed this in the first season or not, but then Quiet is giving Mayhem driving lessons when gas is so rare, and Mayhem's like peeling out and gunning it. You gun a car that chugs the gas away, at least in my car. So anyways, she's like, while the bazaar has got a whole slew of fine-ass weaponry, the most lethal ordnance can be found deep in the Emperor's inner sanctum, locked away in a vault, for good reason. Because these are game changers. S-tier special weapons, the nasty poop. The biggest hurdle will be opening up the vault. The switch that controls the door is way up there in a crow's nest. And Quiet's like, so how do we get into the inner sanctum? And Dollface is like, only the highest paying customers are allowed, and the people with the most money are the representatives from the insider cities. It's like, you blend in with them, you get yourself a lanyard, boom, you're in. And the Quiet, John's like, I'll take the lead on this one. And Quiet's like, really? You? He's like, yeah, me. I used to live with the insiders. I know how their brain works. He's like, do you even know what an hors d'oeuvre is? And you won't, and they like kind of look at him. He's like, and you won't believe how they spell that poop. But they look at him like, I don't think they even believe that that's a weird word. They probably think he's just making stuff up. So to Dollface, he's like, how are we even going to blend in? I mean, we're filthy. She's like, here you go. Dollface tosses like some clean clothes at them. Mr. and Mrs. Dipspit reporting for duty. And she's like, okay, well, you two look for a vault. I'll sneak up to the crow's nest and get the door open. You have 30 minutes to get your butts up there. So Quiet's like staring at, she sits in the car to like, start changing. And she's staring at John because he has his shirt off. And she's like, 20 minutes, yeah. And Quiet looks at her. Dollface like, 30 minutes. And Quiet's like, yeah, that's what I meant. And she's like, you've got to be in and out. And it's like, okay. And she's like, Mayhem, you'll stay back here. Poop goes sideways. We might need a getaway driver. And she's like, oh, hell yeah. I'll totally drive us to Fudge out of here. And the Quiet, Dollface is like, is she ready for this? And Quiet's like, yes. Then it's John's turn to admire Quiet while she steps out. She's like in a suit. She has a jacket, like a blazer on, but no undershirt. So you can just see like her bra top or whatever. So they're just like checking each other out because they got the hots for each other. So they head up. They get like 20 pieces each for the can of diesel. Dollface like splits off. Then we see Sweet Tooth and Stu are there. Sweet Tooth just wants everything, and Stu's like trying to keep him in line. He's got the money. Sweet Tooth, he wanted these grenades. Like, oh, but they got metal pieces inside. I guess so when they explode, they shoot out and everything. Stu, he's like, yeah, but I just bought armor-piercing bullets. He's like, this is important. Sweet Tooth is like, oh, you're right. And he's like, that's why you do the premeditating and I do the murdering. Then he says that, he thinks, he's like, I think I could get away with killing someone in here. So they see someone like steal something. The vendor like yells. The dude gets shot in the head. So Sweet Tooth, he still thinks that there's a way. So then Stu's like, okay, here's some credits. Why don't you buy what you want as long as it's useful? Yeah, I guess he's trying to distract him from wanting to kill someone. We see a couple of suits. They showed her lanyards. The lanyards are pretty big and have like a photo of them. Quiet asked John if he has any idea how to get some lanyards without a fight. He's like, he's like, no. And she's like, way to take the lead on this. A couple guys in suits walk up, and she's like, time for the big guns. And she sticks out her chest, and she's like, hey, boys. They walk right by her. Mayhem's like, what do you expect? You look cute and all, but you look like you're trying to push out a fart right now. With the face that she's making, like, whatever, trying to, like, look sexy. John laughs, and Quiet hisses, like, what are you doing here? It's like, you're supposed to be in the car. And she's like, well, I'm helping your awkward ass. And she's like, that's what I'm doing. She hands over a couple lanyards with like, pictures on there. John's like, how'd you get these? And she's like, well, I just asked nicely, and they gave them to me. What do you think? So John's like, this doesn't even look like him. The guy's, like, wearing he's black, but he's a little bigger, like, older. He's like, this guy's wearing glasses. And Mayhem hands him a pair. She's like, so he looks around. John's like, he's like looking at everything. How is everything so crisp and clear? Quiet's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you know how the world is usually blurry? With these, well, you've got to try these. Like, have your eyes always been that color? And so here, I don't know if, at first I was like, is he joking? But he never says, he never lets on. It seems like he would joke about it. He read 89 Babysitter's Club books, like, in an afternoon. And I guess, I don't know. Just because they're blurry, he could probably still read, but I don't know. So Mayhem's like, well, I've done my job. And Quiet's like, hey, your job is getaway driver. It's like, you're going back to the car, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, definitely. She's not. And then she looks at John. She's like, glasses? They're working. So she likes the glasses on him. They go to the guards. John's lanyard photo looks nothing like him. We can see it up close. The guard like looks at him, looks at John, and then he's like, welcome back, Mr. Davis. So they let him in. And there's like classical music playing, fancy drinks on trays. Quiet like points out the Emperor, and then she points to this regular door, kind of it's like, oh, that must be the vault. She's like, just try to blend in. So they're kind of like sauntering and bopping. Everyone's like looking at them. A guy radios, looks like we got a couple of bogeys. Quiet's like, we've got to go right now. So they turn to walk out, but then the Emperor pops up in front of them. Well, where the fudge do you think you're going? And then it's weird because it goes black. It's like, this is where there would be a commercial break. So it's funny with shows like this where it's streaming, there are no commercials, but they have it set so if it ever goes into syndication, whatever, that's where there would be a commercial. It's the same thing with Alien Earth. So Alien Earth, there would be commercials because it's on FX. I watched it on Hulu, but there's still times where it kind of goes black for a second, where it just stops. So it's weird. It's obvious. It's whatever. It's not a big deal, but it's kind of funny. like, so what exactly are you up to? And then Quiet's like, top of the morning to you, sir. I'm Deb from Spokane. He's like, I can see your badge. And John's like, I'm Rick, but you can call me Big Rick from Kirkland. And then Emperor kind of glances down at his crotch. I guess he's like, yummy. And then Quiet, he's like, I've never heard a Spokane accent before. It's fudging hideous. I love it. And they all laugh. John mutters, like, stupid accent. He's like, so what I want to know is, what are you guys doing here together? Kirkland and Spokane haven't had diplomatic relations since the manure conflict. Trying to turn my little weapons market soiree into a peace summit, are we? And she's like, oi, that we are, sir. And John's like, guilty. And they laugh. He's like, oh, really? Okay. He's like, and how is Kirkland since the whole sabotage? John's like, we're maintaining. The Emperor looks at Quiet. Poisoning their drink water with laxatives was genius. Their sewers, fill their hospitals, make them feel dirty for once. Girl, Spokane don't play. No. And then he looks at John's lanyards. He's like, is this even you? Looks like someone benefited from those laxatives. And they laugh again. So Stu's trying to buy more stuff. The guy wants 15 coins for one missile or something like that. And but he's like, he doesn't have enough. And then Sweet Tooth comes over wearing a cape. Stu's like, I need the money back. And Sweet Tooth's like, oh, no. He's like, touch the cape. It's velvet. He's like, so he doesn't have any money left. He's like, you spent all our money on a stupid cape? Sweet Tooth is like, watch. He waves it over a guy. So then there's a guy walking. He waves the cape over the guy. So he's under, and then he grabs him, snaps his neck. And Stu freaks out, looks for snipers. And Sweet Tooth's like, I killed 2 other yo-yos just the same way. And Stu's like, he's mad that Sweet Tooth's just doing what he wants. So Sweet Tooth says he's investing in history because the cape belonged to Dracula, and they're arguing. And then 2 guards come for Stu. And Sweet Tooth, he just kind of wraps himself in his cape. He's like, catch you later, Stu. So John and Quiet, they're looking at pictures of different weapons. And she says that, they have 15 minutes left. Then this weapon designer comes up to him. He talks about new San Francisco, using this one weapon that wipes out entire encampment outside the gates, lickety-split. So John gets mad, and Quiet, kind of guides him away. And she's like, all cities have weapons like this. Keeping people out isn't enough anymore. They want them gone. John's like, yeah, but I knew people on the inside, guards. They don't talk about stuff like this. And, she's like, she asks him if he thinks that they'd tell him. And then John's like, fudge them and fudge this. He's like, we're taking them all down. The system, the walls, all of it. And Quiet starts smiling. Then the Emperor starts clinking his glass. He says, it's playtime, so everyone to follow him. Dollface drops down on a couple of guards. They start fighting. She gets grabbed by one, but then Sweet Tooth comes. Mind if I cape in? And she's like, thanks. And he's like, thank you. Never killed with a lady before. So he starts to introduce himself. She says she knows who he is, and he's happy that she knows. Says that it'd be his honor to kill alongside with her, and she's like whatever. And she goes up some stairs. He's like, oh, I like her. John and Quiet go down this dark hall. There's a dude standing by the door, and he says that he'll take their coats, and then he gives them something to put on. He's like, one vulture, one holy man. He's like, are you leaving your bottoms on? They're both like, yeah. And he's like, suit yourself, weirdos. Inside, people are getting busy. There's a lot of moaning, people making out, a lot of bumping and grinding. John and Quiet are kind of shocked. So there's role playing going on, and the Emperor keeps looking at them. So she's like, oh, play along. And then the Emperor says, he looked around Diesel City today for the dirtiest, most desperate outsider they could find, so they could bring him in and punish him with pleasure. So take a guess who it's going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, behold your king of dirt. So it's Stu. He comes rolling in this little tricycle or something like that. Quiet's they're distracted. It's so they're going to leave. And Stu sees John. He's like, John, he calls out to him. He's like, it's me, Stu. They didn't hear him. The Emperor's like, it calls itself Stu. The party goes like, Stu. They're saying it over again. And Stu's like, oh, is this a sex thing? He's like, did I win a contest or something? By the vault, they see a long hallway. Quiet. It's like, oh, just a few lasers between us and weapons. There's lasers going across the aisle, whatever, in the grid type of thing. John's like, not just laser, because there's like a guard reading a book. So he curses that, says that, they're cutting it close. And she's like, allow me. So she goes up, hits the guy in the throat. He like tries to swing, or he chokes a little bit from but he swings at her. She ducks and stabs him in the chest with a knife. And then cuts like down, like brings a knife down and flips back her hair and gives John a look. So she just murdered a guy. He's just a guard, just doing his job, just surviving. Is he evil? Not necessarily, but. And she's like flirting with John meanwhile. Sweet Tooth is still following Dollface and trying to make conversation. He asks if she's normally a solo assassin or is this a special occasion. And she says that, she does what it takes. And he's like, would she ever consider teaming up? And she's looking at all the switches in the control room. Then she sees this like EMP thing. And she's like, killing electricity on demand could be a game changer. And he's like, especially in a tournament. And she like whips her head around and looks at him. He's like, I call dibs. And she's like, finders keepers. He's like, losers weepers. And she like hits him. So they both want the EMP thing. John and Quiet reach the laser part. He curses that, that there's a lot of them. And she moves forward, but he stops her. He's like, this one's on me. So he jumps over one, creep rolls on another one. The music's like changed, and he makes it. He does like some bending and posing and stuff like that. There's one part where he leans back and he's excited or something because he barely like hits his crotch or whatever. And she's just like, look at him. Then she just throws her knife at a control box behind him. And the lasers turn off. Then like What Is Love by Hathaway comes on, starts dun dun dun. Dollface and Sweet Tooth are fighting. John and Quiet stare at each other. She goes forward. They start kissing just as Dollface manages to use Sweet Tooth's head to hit the vault door open. So John and Quiet are making out. Then she says that Dollface said that they had to be in and out. He's like, I'll be done in 2.5 minutes. One of these like firebomb things kind of went off in the room. It's like starting to catch on fire. They're like making out, and she puts the glasses on them. But the room's on fire. But none of the weapons are going off. Stu like walks up to the door. He got out of his whatever he was doing, and he wonders. He's like, how am I gonna get out of here? He sees John and Quiet going at it, and he's like, oh, no more. It's like, I'm depleted. But then he sees weapons. He's like, jackpot. So he grabs like this big bag and starts like loading weapons in the back. Sweet Tooth kicks Dollface, and she goes flying. He's like, I'd stay down. She hits a wall and falls like on a bench or something like that. Then he reaches for the EMP things and tries tearing it off the wall. But then Mayhem comes from behind, wraps a cape over his face, and like jumps on his back. And she's like, who wears a fudging cape? So Dollface is kind of coming to, and she's like impressed, it looks like. And he's like, curses, high quality velvet. So Dollface pries the EMP thing off the wall. An alarm goes off. Mayhem and Dollface run out. Sweet Tooth finally like gets up from being tangled in the mask or in the cape. He's like grunting. He looks around. He's like, "Masked lady!" In the Emperor's fun room, they hear an alarm. They're like confused. Stu runs by. He's like, I think he's just wearing like his underwear and a backpack now. The Emperor, he's like, halt! He's like, what have you got there, Stu? You dare steal from me after I gave you the gift of flesh? He's like, kill him. Stu's like, you didn't fudge me. I fudged you. Kills him. John and Quiet are still going at it. They're still going at it. Then she notices an alarm, and she's like, we got to go. And John's like, where are all the weapons? And she's like, where are all our clothes? They see their clothes are on fire. They both curse. Fuck. Sweet Tooth is mad. He's like, this is what I get for trying to collaborate. He knocks two guys out in front of him, to get them out of his way. Someone yells about being attacked. Then everyone screams. They just start grabbing weapons from the vendors because, it's just chaos now. So they probably figure they can't snipe everyone. So people are fighting. Sweet Tooth is like, this is my kind of party. Guards are shooting, but, everyone's fighting. Mayhem has the EMP thing. She bumps into Stu, and they both are like, oh, sorry, whatever. John comes out. He's naked, but carrying this like yellow case of something in front of him. Quiet, she's carrying some stuff, but she has like two, what do they call, bandoliers, like things that are crisscrossed over her chest, so it's giving her a little more coverage. Sweet Tooth sees Dollface. He's like, you. Dollface sees this like four-wheeler with like this big gun attached like in the front. And she's like, giddy up, bitch. John and Quiet make it to the car. And she yells like, where the hell is Ma'am? Dollface and Ma'am pull up on the little four-wheeler. And John's like, where the hell have you been? Dollface like lifts her mask and looks at their lack of clothes. Mayhem's like, that doesn't seem to be the most important question to be asking right now. And Dollface is like, looking good, guys, which is weird because that's her brother. She tells Mayhem to take Shrapnel, the car, and she's got her own pony now. They see Stu running by. They forget his name. They're like, Drew, because they don't know it. They don't remember because they didn't care about him. Stu makes it to Sweet Tooth. He's covered in blood. Stu is. He says that he's like, I killed them all. Sweet Tooth's like, oh, gosh. He's like, I'm proud of you. I can't believe I missed it. Stu says, it's okay. He's like, I got your consolation prize. And he, he has a big backpack. He's like, napalm clones? My favorite. He's like, Stu, remember this day. For on this day, you had your first massacre. You became a man. And this was your gore mitzvah. Stu's like, I also had a lot of sex. And Sweet Tooth's like, gross. He's like, I don't want to hear about that. So John's like, how'd you get an EMP? He's like, we were armor-piercing bullets and missiles. He's like, missiles that come back to you. Because there's something about like boomerang missiles. Or like, why would you want that? I'm assuming we're going to see something about that. And Quiet's like, I mean, that's not all you got. And he smiles. Dollface is like, ugh. He's like, you're nasty. Quiet says that they make a good team. John agrees. Dollface says she hopes it's enough to win the tournament. And she's, not sure it is. And she's like, ever since I met you guys, it's like, I've seen a car man, a weird Grim Reaper biker dude, and a killer clown. It's like, you're going to need someone to watch your back, which is why I'm entering too. And Quiet's like, what about the dolls? She's like, the dolls have their orders. She's like, think about it. Roadkill is fast. You take the lead. I set up the EMP. Boom. No more competition. We race to the finish and make our wish. And it ends before it even starts. Mayhem yells like, and in Shrapnel, I'll be fudging unstoppable. And also, do we have any TP? Because she's like in the bushes in the bathroom. Dollface is like, yeah, I have some in the car. So then alone, Quiet asks John to tell her again about the cabin. And he's like, I've never been there, right? She's like, I know. She's like, just tell me anyways. She's like, make it up. So he sighs. He's like, the air is sweet. At night, all you can hear are the owls and stars as far as the eye can see. And she's like, kind of like, no. He's like, yeah. She puts her head on his shoulder. And she's like, tournament starts tomorrow. You think we'll win? It's the end of the episode. So I have to see what happens in episode 5. But yeah, it's a crazy episode, but I thought it was fun. All right, now Wednesday. So we're at season 2, episode 2, The Devil You Woe. And, like I said, let me know. Are you a fan of the show? Are you digging it? I feel like it's just me, and I don't know what my problem is. I'm really curious. I think I've said this all last week. I don't want to just repeat it all. But, I'm into this world and the concept and everything like that. But it's just, I don't know. I'm just finding little things annoying, and I think it's just me. And I don't want to come across that, especially if you're into this. So let's just get into it. And aside from the little minor things, I am curious about the big story, like, who is the stalker, who's committing these murders, what's the connection with the birds, and what happened to Wednesday, at the end of the last episode with the vision, and what does that mean about Enid and everything. So it starts off, Wednesday's having her vision about Enid's grave. Then she sits up, there's black streaks like all over her face, from the blood coming out of her eyes, and she's like, Enid. And Morticia, she's there, and she's like, Enid is fine. So it's you I'm worried about. And she's like, Mother. And Morticia's like, when it comes to your ability, I asked you to be honest with me. I know what those tears mean. It's psychic exhaustion. That's what happens when you abuse your gift. And Wednesday's like, I've harnessed it. Morticia's like, scoffs, like, you sound just like your aunt. And Wednesday's like, how do I get the tears to go away? Morticia's like, well, you can start by giving me Goody's book of spells. So Wednesday turns and glares at Thing. Don't be upset with him. He was worried sick. Thing pulls out like a hanky, and Morticia's like, as was I. So Wednesday takes the hanky to wipe her face. And she's like, Goody was my spirit guide. That book belongs to me. Morticia says, "This isn't something you can control. You have to be patient and wait for your new guide. They will appear when the time is right." And she's like, "I don't have that time, not after tonight." Morticia's like, says that, Wednesday never believes the rules apply to her. She's like, she applauds that, but she can't bend her psychic ability to her will. Wednesday says that, she can't expect her to bend to, hers, to her mother's, to Morticia's. And she tells her, to blaze her own trail, and then she puts up roadblocks. And Morticia's like, "I am not your enemy. I'm your mother. Your ability is not a weapon to be deployed. It's a gift to be respected." Wednesday's like, "I liked you better when you were a crystal ball away," because that's like the only way they talk to each other when she was back at the house. "Well, one day I won't be here anymore, and you can recklessly live your life as you see fit." Wednesday just walks out of the room. Then Morticia tells Thing, it's like, "You were supposed to help protect her, most of all from herself." So I really don't like the way they treat Thing. Is one of the things that bothers me. That does come up later. Lurch driving Wednesday and Thing back to the school. And she thinks about Galpin's warning, Xavier's painting, her vision of Enid's death. They all have a certain one-eyed black-winged bird in common. She tells Lurch, she's like, "We need to make a stop." So she goes to Galpin's. She goes to his house. There's like spray paint on a garage in the house. Windows are all boarded up. It's like guilty, evil lives here. All this stuff's like written there. She knocks and she calls out, but like nothing. She tries the door and it's unlocked. So Thing tries to warn her no, but she's like, "How can it be breaking and entering if everything's already broken?" So she enters, she calls out Galpin's name. There's like, bottle of whiskey on the floor, and she sees him on a chair. She's like, "I don't have time for your drunken stupor. I need you to tell me about your case." Swivels at the chair around. His eyes have been pecked out. His mouth's open. And she like kind of bends over, like looks carefully in his mouth. Is there something there? Birds fly out. They fly around. She falls back. They swarm, and they fly out through the windows. The few windows that aren't already broken. And one sits like on a crock pot. It's the red-eyed one. And then it flies out. So Wednesday's like, "Murdered by a murder of crows. What a perfectly ironic death. Wasted on the least ironic man I ever met. Let's see if you can tell me something useful." So Thing motions no, but then she reaches out. She touches him. There's like, bzz, bzz, like some like flashes like that. But she doesn't see anything. "My ability is not working." Then there's like sirens in the background you see outside. Why would there be sirens? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Because, if he normally sits home drinking, there's nothing to alert anyone. So she heads for the door, but then the new sheriff busts in. And she's like, "Freeze! Wednesday Adam, you are under arrest." But this is one thing that bothers me. What is she under arrest for? There is no reason. Who called the police? Why would they be there? She busts in. She hasn't even seen anything. So she has no idea that there's anything to arrest her for. Arrest her for breaking and entering? Is that what she assumes? It's ridiculous. At the station, she's asked what she was doing there. Wednesday says that Galpin asked her to stop by. And the sheriff's like, "In the middle of the night?" And then Wednesday's like, "What were you doing there, Sheriff?" And it turns out that the last person to have his eyes pecked out called Galpin right before he died. So is a dude taking pictures. And she's like, Carl Bradbury. She's like, "I want to know what they discussed." But Galpin wasn't answering his cell. It still doesn't explain her busting in. I'm assuming he probably drinks a lot, since his son was taken away and all that. And so she's like, he wasn't answering his cell. A phone that has since vanished. There was no trace when we searched Galpin's house. So it's like, how quickly did they search? He could have left it at work. I guess he doesn't have a job or whatever. She's like, "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Wednesday's like, "I didn't take his phone. And why are you questioning me? Galpin's son, Tyler, is a psychopath who hates his father, who's to say he didn't orchestrate this whole thing." And she's like, "Taylor's safely locked away at Willow Hill. And you were at both crime scenes," which is lame, whatever. She's like, "What aren't you telling me, Ms. Adams?" And then Gomez walks in. "Volumes, no doubt. You could dangle her over a pit of rattlesnakes and she still wouldn't tell you her secrets. Trust me, I've tried." And the sheriff's like, "I am allowed to question your daughter, Mr. Adams." But it's like, what is she charged with? And she's like, "You can sit back there quietly." So he holds up a car. He's like, "I am also her lawyer." It just says like Gomez Adams lawyer. That's all it says. He's like, "I'm also her lawyer. And I don't do anything quietly. If you wish to speak to my client again, you'll need a court order." So Wednesday stands, but it's like she was under arrest. but I guess she's not. I don't know. He whispers, "Have a good night," and he like winks at the sheriff. In the car, he says that he was fixing his nightcap, drink, and then Lurch busts in. She asks about Mother, and he says that this stays between them, so she doesn't know. And he raises a drink to Gelpin. Then he asks why was she at his house, and she's like, "Are you asking as my lawyer or as my father?" And he's like, "I can recognize when a fellow card player is keeping some aces up their sleeve. I respect that, but bluffing only gets you so far." She says that she saw Galpin yesterday. He was working on a case and asked for her help. And he says that, she gets her reckless curiosity from him. That's why her mother worries so much. Wednesday says he needs to pack her trunk, Morticia's trunks, and take her back home. He's like, "I'm afraid that her mind is made up. She's staying. That casket is closed." And then she's like, "What happened to Aunt Ophelia?" He's like, "That is not my story to tell." The next day, Pugsley comes out of the bee hut. Eugene walks up to him, and he's like, "You weren't there at Lights Out last night." And he's like, "Don't worry, I didn't tell Ajax." He's like, "What were you doing in the Hummer shed? Please tell me you weren't eating my bees like your creepy uncle." Pugsley's like, "I know you and I aren't exactly friends, but can you keep a secret?" So he goes into the shed, and he's worried about his bees, but he stops like mid-sentence, and he sees a zombie like chained to a wall. And it's kind of docile, but it kind of lurches, at Eugene when he comes in. Pugsley zaps him with electricity. He's like, "Down, boy." Eugene's like, "What is that?" And Pugsley's like, "The coolest thing ever. Now we have a pet and a best friend. Watch this. It gets cooler." He's like, "Remember that story Ajax told us?" So he like opens the shirt, and you can see a mechanical heart through like a rip in his undershirt. "It's all true. I jump-started his clockwork heart and brought him back to life. But if like he jump-started it, how come people can hear the ticking?" And Eugene's like, "This really is a boy from the Skull Tree? He's not an urban legend. He was one of us." And Pug's like, "Which is why we should keep him locked up in here forever." Which that doesn't seem like fun. How's that fair? You're going to lock him up? Eugene's like, "I don't think that's a very safe idea." It's like, "We need to tell someone before he eats us." Pug's like, "He won't. Plus, he's got no brain." There's like a hole in his skull. He's like, "Which means he's as harmless as a slug." It's like, "He is hungry though." Eugene's like, "What about honey? It's nature's perfect food." He talks about like all this stuff inside, whatever. He holds out a jar, opens it. Zombie grabs it, like chugs it. He's like, "See, he likes it." And he stands there, and then he projectile vomits all over to both of them. It is disgusting. And with a smile, Pug's like, "I think I'm going to call him Slurp." But Eugene got it like in his face. I mean, Pugsley just got it like on his chest. Walking up to her room, Wednesday says a thing. She's not sure what's going on with her psychic ability. There must be an answer in Goody's book. Then Thing signs something. She replies, "In my last vision, Enid dies, and it was all my fault. Somehow it's connected to those birds. No one else can know about it, or know about this, especially Enid. She's far too fragile to face her own impending doom." So she enters the room. The glass door to the balcony is open. There's a big heavy trail like leading to it, and then as she moves closer, Enid can be seen lying outside. It was like, wait, is she dead? Because Wednesday goes to the balcony, we get a better shot. You can see like a pool of blood beneath her, and like under her head, and her neck's like it's been slashed, it's cut. And Wednesday's like, "Thing, get help." Then Enid starts giggling. She sits up. She lets out a satisfied sigh. She licks some of the blood. Blood and orange jam, my favorite." Wednesday's like kind of shocked, and she's like, "Gotcha! Happy prank day!" And at first I was like, wait, was there one last year? Because Wednesday's like prank day. And Enid's like, "It's an annual Nevermore tradition. You hadn't arrived last year when we did it. So that's why we didn't know about it." And she sighs. She's like, "The look on your face when you thought I was dead, that was priceless. I'll carry that memory to my grave." And she's like, "You might end up there sooner than you think." Enid's like, "I was just getting you back for the fake eyeball you left on my pillow." And she's like, "What fake eyeball?" So inside, Thing kind of pokes at an eyeball. Wednesday picks it up. "I'd recognize this judgmental, beady, blue-eyed stare anywhere." And Enid's like, "Ugh, so real looking. Where'd you get it?" And Wednesday's like, "A little bird must have dropped it off." And Enid's like, "Are we going to talk about what happened last night at the pyre? You really freaked me out with that fainting spell and black tears." She's like, "I'm fine." "If you were, Lurch wouldn't have had to carry you out of there. For someone who hates being the center of attention, you have a weird habit of attracting it." And Wednesday's like, "I'd rather attract leprosy." So blah, blah, blah stuff. Then Enid says, there's 3 messages on her phone. So she opened, there's a cartoon image of Wednesday with like a camera. It says, I see you Wednesday. I will not be ignored. And then there's a picture of her standing outside Galpin's like the night before. And so those are the 3 messages. So Enid's like, I think your stalker's back and they somehow have my cell number. So you can see it's from 802-037-9317. I Googled it. It's Donovan Galpin's number is what came up. So, but Wednesday's like, call that number back. She calls Galpin's voicemail. So Enid's like, why is Galpin stalking you on my phone? And why were you at his house? Wednesday's like, this isn't Galpin. He was murdered last night. This must be his killer. And she's like, what? Are you pranking me now? Wednesday gives her like, are you serious look? And it's like, I can't believe it's only day 2 of school year and you're already involved yourself in some grisly murder case. Maybe you're cursed. And she's like, I feel really bad about Galpin, but honestly, I didn't even know him that well. So if you could try to leave me out of this, that would be great. It's like, this is my fun and freedom era. I've sworn off all dead bodies this semester. And Wednesday's like, this is why you should stay in a dorm until Thing and I figure this out. And Enid's like, you're the one being stalked by a killer. I have sharp teeth and claws, remember? Also, I have my first driver's ed lesson this afternoon. Wednesday's like, you're learning to drive? She's like, not all of us have chauffeurs. So Enid leaves. Wednesday takes the eyeball and tries getting a reading on it again, but nothing. She tells Thing to stay there and study Goody's book. But again, it's so annoying how rude and like demanding they are with Thing.
Outside, it's chaos. Everyone's doing pranks. It's I could not imagine this. Like, why anyone would think this is okay. Like some people have like mini explosives. There's like TP everywhere. So like someone got like locked in caskets. There's like chains on them. Like someone like levitates a coffee out of a teacher's hand and it's like spill whatever. Enid's like chatting away with Bruno. Ajax like watching from across a quad, kind of like a creep or whatever. And then Pugsley and Eugene come up to him and like, how about some medicine for a broken heart? Prank day revenge. So Eugene puts this jar with like bugs on this railing. It's like my flying bloodsuckers, Sumatran something tiger fleas. So he opens the jar, Eugene does, and because he can control them, so he makes them like fly up, go over to them, but only to Bruno. So they attack Bruno. He starts like scratching and everything like that. He like whips off his jacket and he's like on the ground and like trying to scratch. People are laughing and they're like pointing. I see that. How is that a prank? That's not funny. That's just mean. And the thing is like, what did Bruno do to Eugene? Nothing. But he's doing this for Ajax. Ajax he's like, thanks guys. And then he whips around. He turns around. He takes off his cap. And snakes, on his head, and he turns them into stone. He's like, happy prank day. And I'm not really sure because Pugsley wanted to be turned to stone. I think they think it's cool, maybe. Or he's just pranking them because it's prank day, and I don't know. But both of them got turned to statues. I guess it wears off, right? So that was just weird. So he walks away, puts his cap back on. You see a kid gets like dragged and levitated by this little kid. Even this little kid's like pranking the older kids. It's like there's no social structure or whatever hierarchy. It's all up for grabs. And this guy's like, no, it's Ajax that he got knocked over, and he's like trying to grab onto this like werewolf statues. He's floating up. Where is he going to go? Is he going to float up into space, or is he going to float up and then the kid's just going to drop him? Like, I don't know what this. Principal Dort, he's walking with Principal Orloff. I think we saw him before. Principal Orloff, his head's in a jar. He's like on this mechanical like thing. He's a biology teacher. So Dort thinks it's glorious how they're all participating in the unadulterated outcast spirit. Or Orloff says he detests prank day. Last year someone put eels in his tank somehow. I don't know how. Wednesday comes out. She walks past. She just walks right past Pugsley and Eugene. Doesn't even look at them. Doesn't even care. Maybe she saw him. Doesn't care. Whatever. The other girls are whispering and wave to her. They're like still in awe. Whatever. And Dort talks to her and says that she really knows how to play to the crowd. He's like, burning a portrait totally caught me off guard. And she's like, I assumed you'd be humiliated. He's like, are you kidding me? I loved it. Acts of defiance is what makes us outcasts. So it's like, this Principal Dork guy, like, what's up with him? And then Wednesday's like, one quick question before you go. Are you aware of any student or member of the staff who can control birds? And Orloff asks, he's like, do you mean an avian? And he's like, why are you asking? And she's like, I'm working on a project about underrepresented outcasts. So Orloff's like, we haven't had an avian enrolled for at least 10 years. And it's weird that Dort is like strangely quiet, like he doesn't have anything to add. He's like, well, have fun. And that was it. Part of me is like, is Dort behind some of this? Because, I don't know. I don't think I trust this guy. Bianca is with Morticia at the gardener's house or whatever. And it's been completely redecorated. It's all like black and gray, whatever. Bianca says that Principal Dort was so happy that she accepted the gala chair. She wanted her to bring some like files right over. It's like the list of potential donors. Morticia comments how her daughter's not happy that she's staying. Bianca, she's like, well, is Wednesday ever happy about anything? And she kind of laughs, whatever. So Bianca talks about how she always admired Morticia's mom and like the outcast business. It's like front mortuaries, how she grew. And she's like, I'd love to do something like that. But Morticia, she says something like her and her mom aren't like on speaking terms or something like that. There's something going on there. Pugsley and Eugene, they go back to the shed, so they're no longer statues. Zombie's still there. Pugsley says that being turned to stone made him hungry, and he opens his sandwich, and Eugene's like, what is that? Pugsley's like, it's a mystery meat from the cafeteria. Eugene's like, nobody eats those. It's made from ground up chicken brains and pig butts. But the zombie's like hungry, he's like reaching for it, whatever. And then he ends up like grabbing it, stuffs it in his mouth. So they leave. The zombies, I don't know if it gave him more strength or he's so hungry, but he pulls on the chain, like one beam kind of starts to break. Thing is reading Goody's book. Wednesday says to watch Enid because she needs to question Tyler about his father. So she's going to visit the Hyde, at the whatever psychiatric hospital thing. So she digs around Enid's desk and she tells Thing, like, you never saw me. But then he hears her in the hall, so she darts out to the balcony. Enid she comes in, starts looking for a driver's ed form. So I guess, at first I was like, what's Wednesday looking for? So she must have taken it. And at first I was like, is it because she doesn't want Enid to leave the room because it's dangerous? So she figures if she takes that, she won't go. But then Morticia comes in and she tells Enid that, Thing can probably help her find what she, needs or whatever. So Enid leaves and then Morticia's like, Goody's book, pass it over. And Thing like closes the book, is like tries standing on it, because Wednesday wants to read it, but Morticia, what can Thing do? Wednesday exits the gate and the driving instructor pulls up. It's this like nerdy instructor. He's like, are you Enid Sinclair? And Wednesday just hands over the form. So he scoots over, she gets in the driver's seat, and she's about to start, but he tells her, seatbelt. And he's like, asks her if she has any previous experience, driving. He's like, video games don't count. So she thinks back to being a getaway driver for, when she was tiny. And she's a getaway drive for Uncle Fester. He like robbed a bank or something like that and runs out. And then she like peels out. She goes backwards. It does like a 180 or whatever in this flashback. She tells the dude that her uncle used to let her sit behind the wheel when they ran errands. And he chuckles and just like dismisses it because he's a dude. He's like mansplaining everything. But then she just like guns it. He slams on the instructor brake right away. But then he like sees a zombie at the gate. So the zombie's loose. He's like, oh, there's like weird things going on. There's always something here. So he couldn't really see. But then while he's looking out the window, she uses a knife. She happened to have a knife to cut the brake line, I guess, from his brakes. And then he turns and sees her with the knife. And she's like, I'm the captain now. And then she slams on the gas. They take off. And he's like freaking out. Morticia tells Thing Wednesday had Goody's spell book all summer, and he's like, you never thought to bring it to my attention? It's like, me and Gomez sent her here so she wouldn't succumb to her own worst instincts. It's like, where's your loyalty to us? And then Thing signs some stuff, and she's like, yes, of course you are a member of this family. Just because I'm cross with you doesn't diminish that. And then Thing says some more stuff. Stop treating you like a servant? When have we ever done that? And there's like several flashback examples, like all this stuff, like, Thing walking, or like Gomez wants another drink, like throws a glass at like the fireplace, like almost hits Thing. I'm afraid there's like other stuff too. Or there's one point where Thing has to hold a golf tee up, and Gomez goes to hit it, hits Thing goes flying and smacks into a tree. So like all these little things, and this is what I've been thinking. It's like they're so mean and rude to Thing. So she's like, well, perhaps there may have been times that we overstepped. And she's like, well, I'm so sorry we depend on you so much. And he signed some stuff, and she's like, don't take my poor relationship with Wednesday out on you. And then he climbs down off the dresser, goes into his house, the trunk that Enid made, and closes the door. Wednesday, she's speeding. The guy's like freaking out, and she skids to a stop outside the psychiatric hospital gates. And he's like whimpering and everything like that. She unbuckles, and she's like, I look forward to our next lesson. So she goes up to the security window, says she's there to see Tyler Galpin. The guy laughs. He calls the other guard. He's like, hey, check another one of these weirdo fangirls who's got the hots for the hide. And then Wednesday, he's like, quit wasting our time and find someone else to obsess over, or something else, like puppies. She slams down like a stack of papers, and then she's like, call your supervisors and tell them Wednesday Adam is here. And he's like, oh. So I'm not really sure what these papers were, like some sort of document. I don't know. She walks into supervisor's office. She's all smiley, has a candy cane on candy on her desk, and she's like, oh, you want something? Wednesday doesn't want anything. So she says she's impressed because this lady says she's a stickler for proper form etiquette, and Wednesday left no box unchecked. So she filled out all the proper forms, whatever she needed to visit him. And Wednesday, like, this isn't my first time with the criminally insane. When can I see Tyler? And she's like, hold those pigtails. Dr. Fairburn will need to make that call. So Fairburn's the chief psychiatrist and expert on outcasts. So she wrote a book, Unlocking the Outcast Mind. It's required reading in medical schools around the country. She even inscribed it. So she like signed it to her, and she's showing it off. Wednesday's like, is Dr. Fairburn an outcast? And she's like, no, why does that matter? Wednesday's like, and this is a good point. She's like, it's like a vegetarian writing a book on cannibalism. Always been skeptical of psychiatrists. And then you hear, me too, from like behind her. And then it's Dr. Fairburn. She's like, hello, Wednesday. I'm Dr. Fairburn. Tyler has spoken of you often. And Wednesday's like, I hope my name leaves a bad taste in his mouth. So they walk. Doctor asks, like, why does she want to see Tyler? Wednesday says to parrot her former psychiatrist, who Tyler gutted like a freshly caught trout, she needs closure. Doctor says that she granted her request with the court weeks ago, so she knew she'd show her face sooner or later. She's like, I'm assuming you chose today because of Donovan Galpin's murder. And Wednesday's like, has Tyler heard the news? She says that Tyler has proven to be a particularly manipulative and uncooperative patient. And she's like, of course, I've never dealt with a hide before, so this is uncharted territory. And then Wednesday's like, well, what about Marilyn Thornhill? So it's Christina Ricci, right? The Dr. Fairburn's like, she still denies that she's Tyler's master. She's being held in a different facility. I'm working on a theory that the longer they're separated, the weaker their bond becomes. Wednesday says, then I surmise you and I are speaking because you need my help. So the doctor's like, my traditional care methods aren't yielding results, so I think it's time to be unorthodox. Wednesday says, well, you know what they say, if you can't kill them with kindness, try lethal injection. So that's the thing. It's like, Wednesday, like, oh, I don't know if she is, but a lot of times she thinks she's so clever, witty, all this like dark quips. And sometimes it's just like, oh, here's another one. So they go down some stairs, and she's like, you could be the psychological shock Tyler needs to initiate his rehabilitation. Wednesday says, if the side of me brings him any modicum of pain, count me in. So the doctor tells her she'll be perfectly safe. If she feels threatened, just press this red button on the wall. So she goes through this like vault door. Then there's this other door past this guard that's out there. So Tyler, he's like standing at the far wall. Both of his wrists are like chained to the wall, and he has like this big collar on. He like slowly looks up, and the doctor is like watching on like the security screens, whatever. Tyler says, so, what do you think of the place? because he thinks he's so cool and everything like that. But then his wrist binds have wires, so he can actually pull them out, or like retractable wires or whatever like that. So he can like walk forward to like the glass barrier between them. He's like, it was originally designed for a schizophrenic werewolf who went on a full moon killing spree in the summer of '92. And Wednesday says, ironic considering you were thrashed by a werewolf. So Enid, and he still has like some scratches on his face. He's like, it was inevitable your morbid curiosity would bring you here. I knew you couldn't resist seeing me again. Wednesday says, is that the deluded lie you've been telling yourself in solitude? Tyler's like, the only person lying to themselves is you, Wednesday. You sensed a monster in me. You fell in love with it. We're two black-hearted souls ready to pillage the world together. And she says, the only thing you're pillaging is an extra fruit cup at dinner. Again, she's so witty, right? Tyler's like, you act like you're the smartest person in the room, but you're not. Wednesday says, then how come I ended up on this side of the bars? Tyler says, because you got lucky. And then the guard hits a red button because he's like kind of flinching. He was about to like lunge at her, which he can't do anything. So he like just breathes, recuperating their silence. Then Wednesday's like, your father's dead. He was murdered last night. And Tyler kind of like chuckles wryly. He's like, how was he killed? And she's like, gruesomely. Another victim died the same way. Your father's old partner, Carl Bradbury, 2 murders in 2 days, both connected to your family. And he's like, you got me, Wednesday. I'm a criminal mastermind pulling the strings from in here. And Wednesday's like, who else would want him dead? Tyler says, you're looking for my help? I'm flattered, but it's going to be so much more fun watching you grope around in the dark. So she turns to walk out, and he yells out, say hi to Enid for me. And Wednesday stops. He's like, tell her I'm going to kill her the next time I see her. Make her pay for sticking her snout in my business. I want her screams to haunt you for the rest of your life. And as she turns around, Wednesday's like, you're right. I couldn't resist seeing you. Witnessing you chained and caged up makes my dark heart grin. Thornhill chose you to be her murderous marionette, not just because she saw some hide hibernating in you, but because she saw a real you, an expendable nobody, a feeble-minded schoolyard bully with nothing to offer the world except for your subpar barista skills. Your fleeting moment of notoriety will fade quicker than your generic looks. Think of you rotting away in the cell in anonymous mediocrity. That is the best revenge. And then he starts like growling like softly. His like face twitches a little bit. He lets out a yell. The guard zaps him, and he like falls to his knee. She's like, I don't need to visit again. I already take up enough space in your twisted head. And she leaves. And Tyler's like, "Grr." So hopefully we won't see him anymore, right? Orlov's biology class. He's talking about the human brain. Pugsley like zaps him from behind. And then he's ducked behind his desk, and he's like, who did that? Whatever. And then Eugene whispers from like the door or something like that. He's like, we have a big problem. So Pugsley goes out. He tells him his pet zombie Slurp has escaped. Bruno goes with Enid up to her room, and she mentions that her driving instructor was a no-show. And she asks, she's like, do you want to study for Orlov's anatomy test? But then it's like, wait, is someone hiding in a closet or something? Because there's like this weird perspective, like ducked behind something. So there might be someone in there. She sees a present in the middle of the floor, and she looks. It's for Thing. She knocks on his trunk, opens the top. He's holding a little bottle, and there's like other empty bottles. And she's like, Thing, have you been drinking? And she's like, how is that even? And she's like, you know what? It doesn't matter. So she asks Bruno if she can have a moment. So he like kind of goes on the other side of the room. She tells Thing that he has a package, but it might be part of prank day, or it could be from Wednesday Stalker. So she opens it. There's a picture of Thing with a mustache, and she's like, it's your mugshot from Normal, Illinois Police Department? And she's like, there's a town called Normal? And yes, there is. And she's like, who's Fernando Fingertips? and Thing signs. She's like, your first alias? And she's like, yeah, it's very catchy. And there's a note. It says, found this while cleaning out an old warehouse. Happy birthday to my buddy from another body. Snickers and Wet Willie's, your partner in crime, Fester. And she's like, Thing, is it your birthday? And he kind of like wags a finger. She's like, no, Wednesday didn't tell me. Did the entire Addams family forget it was your birthday? Which is typical, right? And she's like, I'm really sorry. You know what? You are an honorary member of the Wolf Pack. It's like, why don't we take you out tonight to celebrate? And then there's like a thud, And we're still seeing like thing inside. And she turns, she's like, Bruno, oh my God, what happened? Are you? And then another thud, and there's clattering, and thing starts to move, but then the trunk closes, and someone sticks like a rod through the latch, because it's kind of like a drawbridge for thing to get out, but it's like locked, so thing can't get out. So Principal Droot's office, Bianca comes in to update on Mrs. Adams. She said that she gave her the donor list, and they're going to meet at the end of the week to discuss strategy on whoever she decides on. He's like, did you draw attention to numero uno on that list? And Bianca's like, unfortunately, she and her mother are estranged. And he's like, how estranged? Bianca's like, she refuses to call her. So Dort's like, Hester Frump is the linchpin to this whole campaign. She is the 50-foot shark that will signal the other big fish that Nevermore is worth preserving. And Bianca's like, then why don't you have that conversation with Mrs. Adams? He's like, because you can be much more persuasive. And, he's been putting like in his office, so he hits a ball, and she like stops it with her foot without even looking. She's like, you're not seriously asking me to siren song her? He's like, of course not. I'm ordering you. So Dort is like revealing his true colors. This is like, it's kind of despicable that he wants her to do that. And you're asking a kid to manipulate an adult into getting them to get someone to donate money. So she takes off her necklace, and she holds it, and she uses her powers on him. She's like, you will never try to coerce me again. And he like drops the golf club. So, but then I was like, he's faking, right? Something. So she sighs in relief. Then he's like, nice try, Mrs. Barkley. And he's like, yeah. And he takes something out of his pocket. It's like a pocket watch. It's like, little souvenir I picked up from a dinky antique shop in the Florida Keys. Beautiful, isn't it? So he like opens the top, and there's like this art of a woman on there. He's like, oh, and this here is made up of itty bitty pieces of Corinthian coral, making me impervious to your siren song. I keep it on me at all time. So it seems like that's not the smartest thing to do. It's like you just need someone to take it out of your possession, like while you're sleeping or something like that. And there might be a way, which I'll talk about in a second, or in a few minutes. He's like, you see, the key to winning in both golf and life is keeping your eye on the ball. He's like, so let me help you focus. We both know that I hold your future in my hand. I could either lift you up or crush you. Understood? Now use your gift and get Morticia Adams and her beloved mother on our side. And Bianca's like speechless. So this is just, yeah. So Dort sucks. He's a piece of crap. Wednesday enters a room. It's dark in there. She hears like muffled thumping. It's thing in the trunk. So she lets him out, and he's frantically signs. And she's like, wait, where's Enid? And then like a phone vibrates. So Enid's purse like is in the middle of the room. So Wednesday takes out Enid's phone, and a mysterious voice says, do I have your attention now? And she's like, who are you, and where's Enid? And it's like, the game has just begun. You have 30 minutes to find your werewolf friend, or I put her down. Involve anyone else, and game over. I'm watching. And then a card slides under the door. Tick-tock, Miss Adams. So she rushes to open the door, but there's no one out there on the landing, because there's no way they could have hid. So it's like, wait, what? She looks at the card. There's like this black heart, like, stuff growing on it or whatever. On the back, it says, play dead. It's written on there. So it's like a postcard or something like that. So Enid starts to wake up. She's chained to a chair, like in a clock tower. Bruno's chained behind her, and she asks if he's okay. He's like, where are we? And she's like, I think we're in Iago Tower. It's like they closed it off years ago when it was damaged in some freak electrical storm. She tries using like her sharp nails on the chains, like, shh, but it's just like sparking, whatever. Bruno worriedly asks, he's like, who would do this to us? And Enid's like, okay, Ajax, great prank. Now let us go, Ajax. And then the blade suddenly falls, like on the metal landing that they're on, and they look up. There's a lot of long blades like hanging from the ceiling. And she's like, I don't think this is a prank. Outside, thing is following Wednesday. Miss Capri, the music teacher, Billy Piper, she's like, what are you doing out here? Wednesday says she's looking for a roommate. And then Capri's like, what a coincidence. I've been looking for you. And she's like, I'm putting together an orchestra for the gala. I'd like you to play cello. And Wednesday's like, I don't have time for this right now. And besides, when you heard me play, you are hardly complimentary. And Capri's like, oh, come on. All I was saying is, if you want to be great, let the music control you. Otherwise, you'll just be playing the notes. Mechanical. Rehearsal, 3 p.m. Friday. I hope to see you there. And Wednesday doesn't. And what she should do it. She should try. It could be good growth for her. She walks away. Wednesday stands and he pulls out the card. These aren't letters, they're notes. At first I was like, wait, play? There's no P, L, like what? She goes into music room and she's like, the heart is an organ. So there's a big organ. She sits there and she plays D-E-A-D. So play dead, play D-E-A-D. Smart, right? But nothing happens. Thing motions like you keep trying. And she's like, I'll try them together. She does it. There's some gears clank. A hidden door opens like on the side. So she enters. There's this long corridor. She turns on a flashlight. In a tower, Enid's like, if only there was a full moon, we'd be out of here in no time. It's like, I'm really sorry, Bruno. He's like, this isn't your fault. And she sighs, and she's like, I mean, it kind of is. Whatever's going on here is clearly connected to my roommate. She's like this dark North Star for psycho killers. And Bruno's like, why are you even friends with her? And Enid's like, because even though Wednesday is literally the tunnel at the end of my light, I can't imagine my life without her in it, which is very sweet. And Bruno's like, I think it's cool how you're her ride or die. And Enid's like, emphasis on die at the moment. So Bruno kind of chuckles. He's like, I wish I had someone like that. And then she's like, we have to find a way out of here. She's like, we can't break these chains, but maybe we could wriggle out if we find the right angle. Wednesday's still walking like down these like halls, cavern, whatever, with their flashlight. Then she says the thing, I thought you put new batteries in this thing because like it flickers like off and it comes back on. And she's like, does this look fully powered to you? So she's like, so rude. She walks and she pauses and turns because there's like, you get a glimpse. There's someone behind her, someone with a red cloak and a mask. And as soon as she turns around, they like disappear. And they move closer, disappears. And then they go past her. She looks around and she sees there's a mask on the ground in front of her. So she picks it up, says, clock's ticking is written inside the mask. So she reaches an old elevator. She's like, this is Iago Tower. She's like, come on. So they get in. Enid and Bruno are struggling. They end up like falling over off the chair, but now somehow they're laying side by side. So I don't know if that would like loosen up the chain, but apparently not. He kind of jokes and says, he's like, well, that didn't work. But then his breathing kind of gets shaky and she's like, are you all right? And he says this happens sometimes when he's stressed or nervous. It's just wolf whimpers because, lupin late bloomers usually suffer from it. And he was the last in his family to wolf out. And she's like, no way, me too. And she's like, I had the nervous claw thing too. She's like, have you tried box breathing? And he's like, no. So she explains, breathe in, 4 count, let it out, whatever. And so he does it. And then they start kissing. It's like, oh my gosh. Wednesday arrives, goes up the landing, sees them. Enid calls out and tells her, it's like, you need to get us out of here. Wednesday's like, pick their locks. So he moves and walks right into a tripwire. Barely misses getting stabbed. He's like walking in, shunk, shunk, like 3 blades fall. And then there's like 3 or 4 more or whatever. He gets pinned down by a sigh. It goes like between the fingers. Some gears start turning, and Wednesday looks in, and the whole thing of blades starts moving lower. So Wednesday calmly walks down the stairs. She looks around, sees a typewriter by the gears. Typed is a message. What don't you see? Question mark. It says, type your answer and set your friends free. So there's a bunch of books, like stacks of books. So she's looking at them. She's like, Poe, Dante, Shelley, Dickens. And Enid's like, Wednesday, you need to hurry. Wednesday says, like, each stack is a collected work of a famous author. Proust, Tolstoy. The answer must be a book that's missing. Wells, Babysitter Club. And Enid calls out, how many are in that one? Wednesday's like, 131. And Enid's like, damn it, that's all of them. It's like, unless you're counting graphic now. And Wednesday's like, enough, Enid. But it's funny that Babysitter's Club here, Babysitter Club in Twisted Metal. Wednesday's like, but what you don't see? And she's like, of course, The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. So the blades like smash the chair. They're like getting closer and closer, like right by getting closer to Enid's face. Wednesday types, ding. The gears stop. The blade is literally like an inch from Enid's eyes. Then they start to retract, start going up. And so Wednesday goes up, freeze thing, pulls us out, and then someone starts slow clapping. They look around. Wednesday's like, who's there? And you can see just floating hands, nothing else, just hands start clapping. Then you see a female body in a school uniform. Then it's a redheaded student who keeps like whispering and talking about Wednesday. So we've seen her several times. And so apparently this is the stalker. So, and she's smiling, and she looks a little crazed, whatever. He's like, happy prank day, Wednesday. So Wednesday's like, my crazed stalker is an invisible 13-year-old. And then she holds up the keys and tosses them down. Thing grabs them, starts unlocking the chains. It's like, we haven't been properly introduced. I'm Agnes DeMille. And she like does a curtsy. You're #1 super fan. Wednesday's like, you don't seriously expect me to believe you pulled all off this elaborate prank solo. She's like, I had a little help from the Da Vinci's after I blackmailed them with incriminating Snapchat pics. Perks of being invisible. I just asked myself, WWWD. What would Wednesday do? And Ina's like, that's my line, you little psycho. She's like, I knew if I came up with the most twisted game, I'd get your attention. I hope it's lived up to your exciting standards. Admit it, you're a little impressed. And Ina's like, I can't believe we're almost perforated by your fangirl mini-me. Wednesday's just like being silent, does not say anything. And Enid raises her nails. And she's like, why don't I return the favor? Bruno like grabs her. And she's like, park your claws, Rainbow Barbie. Besides, I got you some alone time with the pack hottie. You're welcome. Wednesday's like, you almost burned my novel at the Founder's Pyre. And she's like, that was just an appetizer. This was the main course. And Wednesday's like, then why kill Galpin and place his eyeball on Enid's cushion? And Enid's like, that eyeball was real? And Agnes is like, I didn't kill Galpin. I wanted to become your friend, not your next murder case. It took this as a souvenir. And she hands over Galpin's phone. She's like, I already scrolled through his texts and his emails. So I don't know what she meant by her emails. Like, what was there? So Wednesday's like, so if you didn't kill him, then who did? And Agnes is like, I can help you find out. And she chuckles. So this is what I was saying earlier. If Wednesday's going to accept her help, and if eventually they find out that Dort's a jerk and has this thing, Agnes can turn invisible and get his pocket watch when he least expects it. So hopefully that will happen. Wednesday, Enid, Bruno, and Thing, they head down in the elevator. And Enid's like, only Wednesday Addams would have multiple stalkers. And then Agnes, she's like, room for one more? And Enid's like, wannabes, take the stairs. So then the elevator starts going down. Bianca goes to Rotwood Cottage. She talked to Morticia again. And she's like, Bianca, what a surprise. Come in. Did you forget something? And she's like, actually, and she pulls off her necklace, when she's got her back turned. She's like, I did. He uses her siren power. You must contact your mother, invite her to the gala, and secure a large donation. She is your highest priority. And Morticia is like, yes, that's it. Mama, I should call her. And Bianca's like, you'll have no memory I was here, Mrs. Addams. And she walks up. And she's like stands outside the door because she feels like complete crap now that she did that. So back at the room, Wednesday knocks on Thing's trunk. And she's like, I forgot your birthday. That's inexcusable. I hope this makes up for my memory lapse. And she opens a gift box. It's an antique thumbscrew, Napoleonic era, designed by Anatoly Diebler, France's most notorious torturer. And then she holds out like her hands together and her thumbs, holds her thumbs out. I'm willing to be your first victim. Thing signs some stuff, and Wednesday's like, I'm concerned about Enid too. Unmasking my flame-haired stalker was an unwelcome distraction. If I'm able to regain my psychic ability, I think I'll be able to save Enid and figure out who killed Galpin and Bradbury. Let's take another look at Goody's book. Like, did you find any answers in there? And Thing kind of like backs up into the trunk. Wednesday goes to, opens a drawer where she keeps the book, but it's empty. And she's like, where is it? Thing signs, my mother took my book. And then there's like a crow out on the balcony. So she runs out, it flies away. And then as it flies, you see it's the red, one-eyed crow thing, whatever. We see the zombies stumbling through the woods in the rain. And then we see the driver teacher. He's driving. His phone is like on the dash, but he's calling Principal Dort, like on speakerphone. He's like, I'm informing you that I'm no longer teaching Nevermore students. Like, Enid Sinclair has pushed me over the edge. And he's too busy like talking to the phone, even though he's not holding it and it's on speakerphone. He doesn't see that the zombie's on the road in front. So he hits it and he like gasps. He slams on the brake. He gets out. He goes to check. It's gone. But then he turns around. It's right there. He screams. It knocks him over. It attacks him. Starts chomping on him. So, and that's the end of the episode. So basically, the driving teacher was just killed by a zombie. So does that make Pugsley an accomplice to murder? Because here's this human guy. He was killed by a zombie that Pugsley awoke because he thought it would be fun. So there should be some repercussions for that. I don't know what, but it's like, come on, Pugsley, you're an idiot. So that is Wednesday. That is episode 2 of Wednesday. So we got 2 more and then probably 4 more because I think we'll line up right to the next batch. I don't know.
All right, and now let's talk about Alien Earth, season 1 episode. I think I'm just going to do the first episode this week. Being fully honest, I've only watched the first episode. So 2 episodes have dropped. So Alien Earth is on FX. It's on Hulu, which is interesting because, as I mentioned during Twisted Metal, where you can see where the commercial breaks are, but on Hulu there are no commercials, which is nice. Unless maybe if you have I have the no ads plan. I don't even can't keep track. So I don't know how I feel about this, because I'm always going to be fully honest, and I don't want to alienate any Alien fans, because I know a lot of people are very passionate about it. I think, have I talked about this? Because I recently watched, there's a reason I watched Alien and Aliens recently. Was there another Alien movie that came out and I'm totally drawing a blank? Yeah. There was it wasn't Romulus. Was it Romulus? Yeah, that just came up. I'm not the biggest Alien fan. I have deep respect for it. I talked about this before. I know I talked about this. The Alien, the 24-inch Alien toy that I wanted so badly when I was a kid. It was I think it was like $25. My parents wouldn't buy it, and it was only at this one department store. Was it Weebolts? And I saw it recently, I think on Reddit or something. I was like, oh man. So I appreciate it, but going back and watching the first Alien movie, again, groundbreaking for the time. But if we're being honest, it's a little boring. I mean, you have to respect that it's meant to be like that. You're in this isolated spacecraft station. And, so there's crazy things that happen, and just how the technology, what they did with it, it's really cool and all that. So now we have this Alien show that's taken place 2 years before that. And it's going to be interesting. So, I don't know the whole logistics and history, because how much do they know about this species and so forth? Because on this one, we do see, obviously there's going to be some aliens, some xenomorphs. There's, we have face huggers in this first episode. There is an actual alien. So, stuff happens, but it's 2 years before. And I think what's always kind of confused me, and I've never tried, I know there's timelines, because, all these things, they go in different order, so they're not always sequential and everything. But watching this first one, I feel like it's weird, because there's different storylines going on. Some parts, all the stuff that's on Earth, and I'm assuming it's going to be important, because we have talk about the cyborgs and synths and all that, but it's just and I did see, I think there was a consensus Rotten Tomato thing, how people are saying that it's like a slow burn and stuff like that. When I glanced at it, I don't know if it's changed since I looked at it, but on IMDb, the second episode had a higher rating, had higher user rating than the first episode. So maybe, it picks up in the second one. But for someone like me, if I'm only able to watch one episode per week, and, the first episode has to be set up, and, you have to lay out everything, which is probably why a lot of shows and streamers, they want to do more than one episode, because you have your build up, and then once you finally get all the introductions out of the way, then you can go straight to the action. Or more action. But for me, it's just I'm only watching one per week. I'm putting my foot down with that, and you need to hook me, because and I'm sure there's other people. I can't be the only person that that doesn't have time to binge everything all at once. Even there's only 2 episodes, but yeah. So right now, if I'm, again, being totally honest, I'm not super excited. It's I can't wait to watch the second episode.
I mean, we'll see. So, and for me, it's just like, this is like not good timing because, I got Dexter, I got Twisted Metal, I got Wednesday and Alien. And it's like, I feel like that's too much TV, quote unquote TV, but I don't want to just cut one. We'll see. And just, before I get into the first episode, what I'll say is, so far on Rotten Tomato, the critics score is at 87%. I guess that's good. I mean, it's pretty good, right? The audience is at a 77%. So that's interesting, because usually I would think audiences sometimes can be a little harsh. So we'll have to see how. So let's just talk about the first. Let's get to it. All right. So the first episode is called Neverland. And that makes sense now that I think about it. So it starts off, there's like some text. In the future, the race for immortality will come in 3 guises. Which I never really thought it was that like a concern, like something that they were trying to do in the movies. Did I just totally miss it? Okay, so 3 guises: cybernetically enhanced humans, cyborgs, artificially intelligent beings, synths, and synthetic beings downloaded with human consciousness, hybrids. Which technology prevails will determine what corporation rules the universe. So that's kind of interesting, because we've seen some, but maybe I didn't realize that that we had that. And the hybrids, I think, is what's I don't even know if that's something new, if we've seen that before. So let's get into it. So it starts off space, USS Maginot, a Wayland Yutani Corporation. So that's like the big one, I think, right? That's the main one that we had. I don't know. See, that's the thing. I've even read some of the comics, and I forget like all these names and stuff. Don't judge me if you're a hardcore Alien fan, please. So the year is 2120, so it's 2 years before the first Alien movie. So we have a ship, or whatever, freight ship. I know that's not right. I know it's not a freight ship, okay? The mission length is 65 years, distance to Earth 805 million miles. So the crew starts to wake up from their pods, like slowly, then they eat. And this is one thing, it's like, man, there's so many people here, I'm not going to remember their names. I'm not going to know their names, so I'm not even going to try. And actually, it doesn't. Spoiler: it doesn't even matter. There's only one that's going to matter. So, but there's this one, and at this point, I was like, okay. After think about the first movie, 2 years after this, and do they always have some like a synth or cyber, whatever, someone on there? Because there's this one dude. He's like kind of weird. And at first I'm like, is he a synth? His name is Tang. And this lady says that, being in cryo creeps her out. And then there's an annoying guy. He's kind of like, I don't know if he's like arrogant. He's very boisterous, but he's like, that's because Tang watches with his beady eyes. And he's like, he's right there. And you're saying this. So it's like, whatever. But he's actually standing by the pod, and it's just like in the other room, and his eyes are closed. And there's one lady still in the pod, and this other dude says Tang won't be a problem unless he wants to work 65 years for no pay. So it's like, okay, he must be human if he's getting paid, because otherwise, why would he care? Then they start talking about the different corporations, who controls the moon, Saturn, what about Earth, who controls what. Then a guy says that the kid didn't do his social studies because there's 4 companies that govern an entire globe. The lady's like, oh, don't forget the new one, Prodigy. And that's where we see a lot in this episode. So they do since AI started by this kid 10 years ago. His name, I thought they were just calling him Boy. His name is Boy Cavalier. But I thought because he was a kid, there's like, oh, it's a boy. But no, I guess his name is Boy Cavalier. Youngest, I think he was a trillionaire ever. So there's 5 companies. Then they kind of yell at Mr. Tang because he's like eating his bowl of noodles or whatever, like really close to this lady. And it's like, okay, why does he have no concept of like, space, boundaries, body, whatever? So then he moves and he sits like really close to this other lady. And then they ask if he checked the nav computers, and he's like, are you asking me if I did my job? And they're like, how long, to Earth's orbit? And he's like, 10,525,000 seconds, which I think I did I did calculations. So I was like, it doesn't matter. So I figured out how many minutes, how many hours, and just 121.8 days or something like that. And the lady's like, months, Tang, give it to him in months. So he's like 4 months, which that makes sense. So this other guy says that, he's like such a jerk, whatever, Tang. Then the captain, I guess, comes. He says the comms are down, and it looks like the log files are corrupted. This other guy says, I can't keep track of who's who. This other guy says it's probably just a glitch. There's talk that they're burning too much fuel, so they need to figure out like what systems they can be turned off or whatever. Someone says that they should just like shoot out so-and-so specimen or the zoo in space, and then dudes like the specimens are but there's besides the ones people were in the pods, there's these other people too that seem older, like they're more workers and not scientists or whatever these people are in the pods. So they should just shoot out the specimens, whatever, and dudes like the specimens are the mission. There's you see like there's like a face hugger in a container here, so it's like, okay, where did these come from? That's what I want. But then this older guy's like, easy for you to say, cyborg. It's like, we lost a lot of good men getting them, and for what? So maybe they're like soldiers in that. He's like, so the corporations can poop in our cereal and control us. So he's like, that is not true. And then the first guy is, again, he's like sternly, he's like, the specimen are the mission, period. Now, do I need to post extra security or restrict you to your quarters? And then the older guy just like spits in a can. He must be like chewing tobacco, whatever. He thinks he's cool. He just like walks away. It's like, no respect. And okay, yeah, it sucks. I mean, that's your job. If you lost men doing this job, you signed up for the job. You must have known that it was going to be dangerous. So then they start going back to the pods, and this lady, she puts this dead rat in a container. There's this like multi-eyed creature thing watching, and every once in a while you kind of get these like little glitches that are kind of showing stuff that's going to happen. I found it a little distracting, because it's like so fast you can barely see, and it's like, I'm not going to rewind it to try to figure out what's going on. But then it seems like not everyone goes into pods at the same time. We keep getting like there's like more flashes, whatever. And there's this lady by the container. She's like falling asleep. And then there's a flash of like an alien running down a corridor. So it's like, okay, foreshadowing, whatever. Okay, I don't know. And they don't really, they do it every once in a while, but it's not throughout. It's like, let's hopefully they ease back in it. Then on Earth, there's Prodigy Neverland Research Island. There's this kid, this girl, her head's shaved. She's looking at this container, this thing, there's like a scorpion. And she didn't know what it was. So she asked this dude. At first I was like, who's this guy? I was like, is this her dad? But no, his name is Kirsch. I didn't find out till later. And so he's like, it's a scorpion. She's like, what are you going to do with it? Whatever. And she's like, I think you should squash it so it doesn't sting you. And he's like, well, what if another one stings me while I'm trying to squash it? It's like, to protect its friends. Like, you're trying to protect me. And she's like, well, it scares me. And then he's like, well, think how a scorpion must feel, trapped under glass, menaced by giants. Then there's a doctor. At first I was like, okay, is this lady the mom? I have no idea what's going on. But this lady tells the kid it's time. So then Kirsch, he says that, he's like, go on. He's like, I'll be here when you wake up. So then the kid walks out. She has like an IV drip and everything like that. So she's brought into this lab. And then there's like again, what's the terminology? It's a synth. There's just like just a body, like sitting on a table or laying on a table next to her. So she looks at it. She's like, is that what I'll look like? And the lady's like, yes, that's you. And the girl's like, oh, she's pretty. This other dude comes in and asks how she's doing, asks if she knows who like Neil Armstrong was. He's like, he was the first person on the moon, and that's going to be you. And, because she's going to be the first to transition from a human body to a synthetic. And she's like, because I'm special? And they're like, that's right. You're very, very special. And then he's like, oh, you want to see a magic trick? So he stands back and he like snaps. And then like the overhead light kind of like tilts, or shifts a little bit. And then it's really like a circular monitor. And then Peter Pan, the animated Disney Peter Pan, starts playing. Lady tells her to get on the table. She says that, she wants her brother. And the lady's like, well, we told you, you can see him when you wake up. And she's like, but he can't see me. And they're like, no. And she's like, because it's a secret what we're doing. And they're like, yes. So she lays back on the table, And she's like, is it time to go to sleep? And so her name is Marcy, but it doesn't matter. Trust me. And she says, she's looking at the synth. She's like, she looks like a Wendy. And then the dude hits this lever, just pulsing lights like under the table. And I think there's like memories. You see like the kid growing up, and then it's just like a close up on Wendy's face. And then Wendy's eyes open. Then it shifts to like shots of the island. And there's like this weird happy music. Wendy's sitting outside on the cliffside looking at the water. Then the lady, the one like the doctor lady, she's like, Wendy, she calls her. And she's like, we're ready for you. So and then she just steps off the cliff, shoom, easily lands on the beach. So, because now she's enhanced, So then she's like, race you. And she starts running. So so Marcy is now Wendy in the synth body. So she sits and talks to the lady and that Kirsch dude. They ask how she's doing. She cups her breasts and she's like, these are weird. She's like, they move when I run. And the lady's like, well, you're an adult body now. Because, I don't know if she's at her breasts, whatever. And Wendy's like, why? And he's like, because synthetic bodies don't grow. So then the lady, I think her name is Fairburn. What's her name? Dr. Fairburn. She's like, how are emotions? And Wendy's, they're quiet now. And Kirsch is like, the body produces hormone, dopamine, testosterone, all that stuff. That's what creates a mood. The lady says that, they tried to simulate them so she can ease the body from, going from an adolescent body to, she's like, so it's not just like flipping a switch. And she's like, maybe they need to make it more intense. And then Kirsch is like, well, she's not a human anymore. So why pretend? And she's going on, and Wendy's just kind of sitting there, not really paying attention. It's like she's like just oblivious, whatever. And then she goes on. The human mind is a vessel, prolonging life and stuff. And Wendy, then she turns, so she probably is listening, but she's like, so what am I if I'm not human? What am I? Kirsch is like, whatever you want to be. Then the lady gives her like this stuffed critter for her collection. Says that she has some good news. There's other children. The other children have arrived, and she's like, I'm not alone anymore. They're like, you're never alone. You got us. But yes, there will be others. And she's like me? And they're like, not yet. And they're still children. So we need to help them make the transition so that they're not afraid. She kind of seems a little bummed, so she kind of sits back, whatever. And they're like, can you do that? Can you be a big sister? And she kind of smiles and nods. So she talks to like 5 or 6, I think there's 6 kids. Because one was in a wheelchair. She tells them that, they can be big and strong like her. So she has, 5 of them grab onto her arms and she like lifts them up. And she said, they'll be super fast too. One girl's asked if she was sick and she said, yeah. She's like, I was dying. Everyone was so sad. Then the boy Genius came along and said, don't be sad. And he said he's going to make her better. He gave her his big girl body, better than the new. Now she's the forever girl. And the girl in the wheelchair is like, asked, will I be able to walk? And Wendy's like, you'll be able to walk, run, whatever. Another asks, when they get to go home. And she's like, you don't. And it's just like that. It's like, that would be like conversation killer or whatever. So then it's time shifts or whatever. This boy's getting ready to transition, then another and another. So they all change. And then that boy, Cavalier boy, whatever Genius guy, at night he like reads Peter Pan book like while they're in the rooms. In space on the station, the alarm blares. It's not a station, it's a ship. There's more flashing images and it's like we get all these again these crazy like are the critters escaping? But then it's like no, everything's fine. So it's like, come on, stop teasing. So then there's this one dude, Morrow. He's at a keyboard typing in this like enclosed room, like control room or whatever. Status update from the security officer, USCSS Maginot. Navigation compromised. Cargo containment has failed. Specimens are loose. Then this lady's like bangs on the outside. She asks him to let her in. She's like, let me in. And then the screen asks for crew status. He like hesitates. He gets up. He like looks at her. Then his hand morphs because he's a cyborg, right? It morphs into like a blowtorch and he starts like sealing the door more. And she's like, why are you doing this? And then she turns. There's this creature unseen. We don't see it. It's just like something snarls because they're not just aliens on there. There's like other specimens, other species on here. So something like snarls at her and she gets yanked away from the door. And Morrow types crew dead. And there's like flashing lights outside. And we see there's an actual alien. And it's like slowly, it's the big old head and everything like that.
Slowly walks by the door. Morrow types, collision course with Earth unavoidable. And then the alien, the xenomorph, starts smashing against like the glass on the door. The screen says, containment of species, #1 priority. So then the alien smashes the window, starts like peeling the door open. So he gets up. He's like, Mother, I need the impact room. So then this like hatch opens underneath. He goes in. There's like almost like a pod under the control room. The alien enters and is like trying to get at him while he's under there, and like drools on his face and his eye, and he just like wipes it. Mother's like, collision imminent. So he just sort of wipes his face, and then it closes. It's like banging on the floor. He puts on like a breather mask. And then the ship's going. It hits like some other ships, like it's just going, and it's still heading towards Earth. Then we see New Siam, Prodigy City. Wendy talks about some guy, Joe. At first I was like, who's Joe? It's like he's a medic, and she's watching him like on regular surveillance cameras, like she can hack in. At first I was like, does she have a crush on him or something? Has she even met him, or has he met her or whatever? Then a guy watching her calls out. She's like, he's in this other room. He's like, she's watching her brother again. So it's her brother that she talked to. So she wanted to see her brother, and they're like, you can see him, but he can't see her. So her brother must think she died, however long ago she did her transition thing. So she's talking to her other stuffed animals, like, oh, he works for Prodigy now, just like us. He has to work with the soldiers who work with guns. They told him I died. And, she watches him eat. He goes in this, and some, at first I was like, is this a restaurant? But it looks like it's a house. So I don't know. And there's like some old people there, and he brings like some food or something to them. And she says she misses eating, while they're getting ready. So then there's like memories watching TV with him when she was like tiny, like an infant. And then, she seems sad, and she's like, good night, Joe. So then we see Joe's with some soldiers, and he's looking out at the city. They're like sort of like not they're out of like not really a rooftop, because it's not the top, but it's like a outcropping in a building, whatever you want to call it, balcony, I don't know. The ship is coming, so it flies overhead, like it skims like part of the building that they're in. So like some parts of the building above them starts like sort of falling on them. And it just keeps going, and then finally it hits the ground like a little ways away, but they could see it from the rooftop. Joe's like, call it in. So they head over to that area in like armored transports, and the guy's like, by the book, he's like, locate survivors, evacuate the wounded, secure the site. So when they exit the transport, it's chaos. It's a little disturbing, because you see all this like smoke and people screaming. There's lots like standing around. And just debris from the buildings are falling. The ship engine's still on. There's a lot of smoke. Joe's calling out for people to head to a medic tent if they're hurt. Again, so more debris. They enter this building looking for injured. Then they reach the part where the ship is, and there's like this girder kind of sticking out. So they kind of walk across. They can enter the ship. And so 2 soldiers go with Joe, and then there's 2 that kind of hang back, but then they go in as well. So then there's the screens like ticking away. The floor is like scratched from the alien in the control room, whatever. There's some like burning. Morrow like busts up. He slices through. He busts up through the hatch. Like he breathes. He moves about, and you see some bodies, just like dead people on a screen. He sees soldiers walking. He's like, Mother, this is Morrow. Alert Wayland HQ. The ship has been boarded. Status of cargo unknown. I'm moving to the armory and will secure the site until reinforcements can arrive. When Wendy is getting like her hearing check, she has put on some headphones, and she has to like raise her hand when she hears like the tone or whatever. And she's asked the dude, is like, why don't you have kids? And he talks about low sperm count and stuff like that. I think she thinks that's funny, whatever, because she's still a kid. Then she sees on the monitor wreckage and the search, so she takes off the headphones. She stands. And then she brings the screen closer, because you can like whatever, swipe them. And so the boy genius guy, he's told about the situation. He wants to claim the contents for themselves, because it's their city. But the guy says the other company won't like it, And the boy's like, well, she can sue. Wendy came in and she's like, we can do it. And he's kind of ignoring her. And she's like, sir, we're fast, we're strong, we don't break. You made us, we can do this. We rescue people, clean up. And then it's like, why? The other dude with her, like it was like talking to the genius. He's like, the brother from her old life. He's a medic with a tactical unit. They're inside the tower. So he's like, you want to help them? And he's like, look at her face, her body language. If I didn't know better, I'd say she was human. And she's like, I am human. Said he like whips a ball. He was like kind of like just holding this, tossing his ball, and he like whips at her, and she whoosh, easily catches it, and then she just like lightly tosses it back. And he thinks about it. Then he's like, send them. Let's see how they handle the stress. I want all technicians on deck. Monitor brain functions, emotional response. See how to enhance physiognomy performs. It was in physiology. It was like something else. I forget. So then the aide dude says, but they're not first responders. They're still in the prototype stage, and the loss of a single unit would be devastating, which is cold, and he's like, yeah. He's like, so don't lose one. So he tells Kirsch, he's like, you'll watch them, because he came in with Wendy. He's like, they can follow orders, and to Wendy, he's like, you will follow orders, right? And she's like, sir, yes, sir. And then he's like, well, off you pop. But it's like, will she follow orders? She just wants to save her brother. So she goes to her room. She grabs one of her stuffies, I think the one that she got like right before. She pulls off the blade off a slicer, and she's like sticks it on her back and like magnetically attaches whatever. The other kids are sitting around, they were talking about a bunch of whatever, and she's like, we have a life or death spaceship crash rescue mission, and they're kind of surprised. They're probably bored or whatever, but at first I'd be like, are they gonna be scared or whatever, or because they're kids? So they head out on different like flying crafts. Morrow is walking the corridor. He hears search and rescue. Shout out if you're where you can hear or whatever. So they're like behind him. The two start coming down the corridor that he was in. They search and they enter the specimens room. Some of the cages are still closed, so it looks like they're still alive. There's like a couple face huggers still in the container. They're like inert or whatever. I don't know if they're frozen or they're dead. And they're spending a long time in here. If they're looking for survivors, why are they spending time looking in this room? They're probably interested, but it's like, no, you need to check for survivors, not like check, appease your curiosity. So one guy turns a body, whatever, and says like, look at this guy. It's like, he was shot, once in the body and once in the head. He didn't die in a crash. And then something's like coming down, like on slime, like dripping down. It's like this slug thing. It goes on the guy's back, and it goes like under his shirt, and he doesn't like notice it. This other like specimen's banging against the door, and it like scares them. So they decide, like, oh, we should probably get out of here. It's like, yeah, because you should be looking for survivors. When they exit, Morrow's behind them. Don't turn around. He's like, slowly, weapons on the ground. And so they try, they're like, come on, we're Prodigy Search and Rescue, you've been in a crash. Then Morrow shoots like past her head. He's like, don't make me say it again. So they comply, they put their guns down. Then he has them go back into the lab. He tells one guy to cuff the other guy by this pipe. And one is like, it's like, this whole building's gonna come crashing down, any second. Morrow asks one, like, where's Cavalier? And the guy's like, that trillionaire fudge? He's like, how would I know? So then he stands, and then he's like, Mother, lab specimen seem intact, moving to track the fugitives. So, and he cuffs the other one. So they're both cuffed in there now. Then a couple soldiers and Joe, they're like in a cryo chamber. One like calls it in, like looks like no survivors. One tube has like a hole in the glass, and there's like blood like all around it. And there's a hole going straight into the body. And they're like, what does that? And the other's like, I don't know. Joe's like, it's been dead a week, maybe more. He's like, you see the colored blood, the coagulation. One soldier's like, why did the ship crash? The others say, something crawled out of there, because they can see, there's like a trail, like blood, so they start following it. Then they miss that there's like a husk of a face hugger and like in this other empty tube. So that's probably where the alien came in. The two cuff guards are calling for help. Then the slimy thing, it crawls over the guy's head, and he's wearing a helmet, so it crawls on his face. It goes under his helmet, but he can't get it off. Then it goes on the other side, crawls over his head, so it comes on the other side, and then it chomps into his neck, and he screams, and the thing starts getting really big. It's like a tick, just really full of blood or whatever. And then there's like skittering, something's on the other guy. It's another one of the same thing. So it crawls on it and chomp. The kids, I think they referred to themselves as the Lost Boys, even they're not all boys, whatever. So
I don't think they're going to be ready for this because they're still so young and they almost seem excited or whatever, and they don't really even know what they're getting into. Do they understand this? That Kirsch dude, he's kind of being mean. He tells Wendy that because he's like sitting across from her. He's like, you used to be food, humanity. He's like, but then they built impossible machines to advance themselves. But there's always something bigger. And so at this point, it's like, I didn't realize that Kirsch wasn't human. Because, in the beginning, I was like, is this her father's? But then it's like, no, he works there, so there's something going on. But he's not a synth. See, he's not a cyborg. Some of the buildings starting to collapse, and Wendy, she goes and she sits by the dude. She's like, my brother's not going to die because he said something like that. And he's like, of course he will. Old age, they all do. All we can do is watch and take names. And she's like, no, he's not going to die. I'm going to save him. And then that's where it ends. So it's like, what is she going to do? Is she talking about she's going to save him from this building, this disaster? Or is she talking that she's going to save him to make him like her? Or make him, immortal, whatever. I don't know. So that's this interesting thing. And I saw, it might have been on Threads or Twitter or someone, and there's someone posts like a picture of her, and they're like, she's the one to watch, or she's why we're watching, or whatever. And I guess I can kind of see that, where you look at her, and I mean she's she could be a cool character. She was a sick child. She was this little girl, and now she's in this enhanced body, and so she's no longer fully human, and she has like all this curiosity, and it seems like she's a good person. Does she want to help people? I mean, she probably sees her brother. Her brother's a medic. She's not fond of guns. She's like, he has to work with soldiers. They use guns. So it's possible she may look at it as like, yeah, we can go and save people. That's what her brother does. So maybe she wants to do that too. And, she was very kind to the kids when they first got there and helped them, made them feel better. So, maybe there is something. But it's weird that there's so much of this episode focused on her. And at first it's like, oh, we're in space. Okay, we got the specimens and, all this stuff like that. But then so it's like this weird balance to where, like, it wasn't like equally like, because usually when there's different people in different settings, it's, you see this and you see this and you see that, then you go back, but this was just yeah. So in my honest opinion, I thought this first episode was just a little boring. I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know where this is going. I don't really know what the focus. I don't know. Why am I supposed to care? And then what's with the specimens and now that they're on Earth, because maybe I just don't know my alien history. Because if this is 2 years before, and if this ship crashed, and if there's specimens, some of them are loose. A lot of them are intact, but there's still some. The actual alien is loose. And then those slug things are loose. If they crawl out of the wreckage, could they reproduce and blah, blah, blah. And, then they're on Earth. And so I don't know. But, yes, I'm sure I'll continue watching, but I'm not super impressed. And maybe it's just me. But we'll keep going. Oh, but the thing is, like, which I didn't mention, so Kirsch is Timothy Oliphant. Which I didn't even realize that in the beginning, but there you go. So more Alien. So we'll be like a week behind. So there's 2 episodes out. When you listen, depending when you listen to this, the 3rd episode's probably going to air. So I'm going to be like, I guess, 2 episodes behind, a week and a half behind. That seems to be like typical for me. All right, now the movie feature is Nobody 2. So this is Bob Odenkirk. He's just a nobody dude who is extremely skilled at fighting. He used to be, I guess, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think he was an assassin for, I don't know if he was just the United States in general, like some intelligence group, or I don't think it was the CIA. Was it the CIA or just someone? And I'm trying to remember when the first movie came out. I don't know, because I saw it. I feel like I watched it during COVID, and now I don't remember if I talked about it on the podcast. I don't think I did. I'm trying to remember when it came out. I just paused and tried searching, and I didn't see it. But I think it came out during COVID, and because I remember watching it. I didn't know anything about it, and I was like, wow. I watched it on what was it? Not Vimeo, whatever. Voodoo. It was Voodoo, what, Fangoria, whatever it is now. And I really liked that. I was like, wow, Better Call Saul. I got new respect for him, because you don't think of him being like an action hero. And so and he's just wanted to protect his family. He's not like the annoying, arrogant guy. He's just very calm and everything, but when he loses his temper. So 2021 is when the first one came out. And just to talk about it, the first movie, the budget was $16 million. It made $57.5 million. So did it play? Okay, Nobody, the original one, originally scheduled to be theatrically released in the United States on August 14th, 2020, after being repeatedly rescheduled due to COVID-19 pandemic. The film was ultimately released in theaters on March 26, 2021. The film was released digitally via premium video on demand. That's how I saw it, and became available on HBO Max and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I guess it did. See, it grossed $27.6 million United States and Canada, $29.9 million other territories, for a worldwide total of $57.5 million. So, it only cost $16 million. That's good, which is why we had a sequel. A week prior to its United States release, this is off of Wikipedia, by the way, Variety estimated the film would gross around $5 million its opening weekend. And what did it do? In its opening week, compared to expectation that it would have opened to about $15 million pre-COVID marketplace. The film made $2.5 million on its first day and went to debut to $6.7 million, topping the box office. 62% honest male, whatever. The film fell 56% to $3 million its second weekend. See, so that's the thing. Movies tend to drop about 50 to 60%. So whenever you see like the Marvel movie dropped 50 something percent second week, everything does. All right, so that's the first Nobody. Nobody 2. It has a $25 million budget. So they've increased it. It's projected to gross 12 to 20 million from 3,000 theaters. So if it makes 20 million, that's not its budget, but hopefully it will be fine. Now, with this movie, I was trying to remember, because even though it's 2021, I'm trying to remember, what's the deal with his wife? Because one of the things, if you saw the trailer, so basically, Nobody, that's not his name, Hutch, he does different jobs, and he's very skilled, so there's some very impressive, very crazy violent. It's not like grotesquely violent, but there's just a lot of times whoa and stuff, and they do a good balance where some scenes are a little bit of distance, or there's this one scene where there's all this fighting and the camera kind of pans around this big barrel or something like that, so you don't see, so it's not uber violent, unnecessarily violent. But he's and the other thing is he gets beat up. He's bloody and bruised and stuff like that. So it's not like he's super tough guy that can take on the world. So that's kind of nice. And so it starts off. He does this job, and it's supposed to be a simple job, but things just really escalate. And it's kind of funny when he's explaining it to this dude, because he owes all this money And I don't remember that from the first one. So I don't know if this is something else. But then, so he comes home and he's like, he's distanced from him. His wife's like getting upset because he has a son and daughter, and he's not really there because he's constantly doing these jobs, and he's missing out on stuff. Like the son got in a fight I don't know what sport, did they say what sport it was? But maybe it was basketball. He got fouled, and then he got in a fight. He ended up getting a black eye and stuff like that, and was like, Hutch doesn't even notice it right away. And you can tell she's had her limit with him because he's not supposed to do this. But when he does this job, spoiler, they're like, you got like $800,000 closer, or $8,000 closer to paying off your debt. Then he's like, well, how much is left? And the dude's like, about 30 million. Because so and I won't, if this was news, again, I don't think it was in the last movie, but so he doesn't want to do this, but he's taking on these different jobs, and right away he's supposed to do another one, but he's like, no, I need a break, and the dude's not happy. He's very nice, but then he's like, okay, good luck, but he wants to take his family on vacation, and you can tell his wife is like, she's about, I don't know if she's going to say this isn't working, we need to do something, but he's like, no, I was like, because summer is about to start, so he's like, I'm going to make plans, I'm going to do this, whatever. And they end up taking his dad too, Christopher Lloyd, who's amazing. And so they end up going to this like amusement park, water slide, and all this stuff. And because it turned out like him and his brother went there as kids. Their dad took them there, and there's like some flashbacks or whatever about that. So it's just a kind of sketchy place because it's like so old in the town. But again, if you see the trailer, there's some sketchy stuff going on in this small town with the police and whatever people on the take or whatever. But there's one point in here where the mom's like at a shooting gallery thing, and she's like shooting, and the kid's like, "Mom," I was like, "Wow." So when I'm watching this, I was like, why is she such a crack shot? Why is she such a good? I don't think there was. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember if there was any mention of her, because I don't think she was in any government agency or anything like that. I think she's a real estate agent, and she's like a very successful real estate agent. She talks about like closing another, she mentions like this, she's got the showing, this, and she's going to, sell this other house. And so I couldn't remember if there's anything to that, because it's like, why make a big deal about that? So what you see in the trailer, basically, if you haven't seen the trailer, they go to this small town, they're in the arcade, and there's a bully that starts picking a fight with the son because, some girls were like watching him like shoot baskets at the basketball shoot hoop thing, and so then he's like, you want my tickets, because the game spits out tickets, and he doesn't want them because he's got a bunch. And then the one kid, he's like you need to say sorry, and he's like, why? He's like, for hitting on my girl. So there's things escalate there. He ends up punching the other kid. So they're getting kicked out. Oh, because also what this guy did, he took this stuffed badger doll that his sister he got with the tickets, and he like rips the head off. So then as they're leaving, so then the arcade owner dude, he's like angry, he's like kicking them out and everything like that. And the Hutch and Becca, his wife, they're there. And then as they're leaving, because the girl, she wants to pick up, she wants her stuffy, even though the head's ripped off. And the guy's like, "Oh, get on!" And he like kind of smacks her like in the shoulder or something. And she's like, "Ow!" And then Hutch like sees that, and he's just like, "Okay." He walks out. They go out there, and he's like, "Oh wait, I left my phone inside." And she's like, "Hutch," because she knows, when she, after the first movie, she knows. I think she knew. I don't remember if she knew about his past before. So he goes in there, and then things escalate, and then there's more to it. It's not just a regular small, a small town. There's layers and layers of stuff, and it gets it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, it just yeah, and the other thing that I will say, the only thing what bothered me is when you got like the main villain. The main villain was Sharon Stone, and she's just like evil lady boss, whatever. So that's great. That's fine. Have the position be a woman instead of stereotypical. It's always a guy in charge of everything. Having a woman, it gives some variety. It mixes things up a little bit. But there's like one scene where all this stuff goes down, and she's like doing this like dance, like this like kind of weird dances or walking and stuff like that. And because this other guy's like, yeah, she's crazy. She'll do it, and you like see her reaction to this one incident in like a casino or something like that, where someone was suspected of cheating, and so she's like very extreme, and she is unstable. But the way she talks or delivers the dialogue that was given to her, and like this dancing is like, oh, she is crazy, look at that, she's doing this weird dance on the hall as she's walking, and it just bothered me. And then of course they're like, oh, just do this, wipe out everything, do that. It's just like so extreme. It kind of became too mustache twirling, too just ridiculous, too absurd. Yes, these movies are not grounded in reality necessarily, but they kind of are to a certain extent. And then this villain just became too cartoony, and it was too much. But aside from that, it was a really entertaining movie. I really enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. But the thing is, when I watch these movies, even like at the beginning, the first scene or everything, it's like it's kind of, you get tense. You're antsy or whatever, because it's just like, oh my God, because then things just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and it's like, oh crap, now this, and it's like, wait, what are you doing? No, don't do that. But it's just really good, and like I said, Christopher Lloyd was great. I don't want to say too much about him. The only thing, the movie is kind of short. It's only 89 minutes, an hour and 29 minutes. I was like, what? But it's not really a major problem. I have issues with 90-minute movies. I feel like 90-minute movies are for comedies, the old school comedies. And my thing is, like, if it's less than 90 minutes, that loses some credibility. So this is a minute shy of 90 minutes, but it's okay because I feel like there's plenty of violence. There's plenty, they set up the story. There's plenty of action and the big, there's a huge battle and everything. I feel like you don't want to necessarily drag it on. Some things did escalate kind of quickly but that's fine. Move the story along. We don't need the drag. We don't have to have a big, long, super, whatever, slow build up. It's just like boom, 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 and then just keeps it going, which is fine. That's what you want. So I'm kind of back and forth with that. It's a little weird how short and fast it was. But it worked, and part of me, it's like yeah, you do want more, but at the same time, you don't make it longer than it needs to be, because then it's just it kind of just gets not redundant or whatever, but it starts dragging on, and then you're like, okay, let's get it going. That was fine. Yeah, like I said, it felt a little short, but that was good. But I mean, there's nothing else more to say than that. And this is, when I first saw this, I was like, yeah, I'm excited to see this because I enjoyed the first one. But I was like, I don't know if there's going to be much to talk about, because you can't really, I can't say, oh, there's one scene where this fight or this happened, this explosion or this gun or whatever. I don't want to explain the cool scenes or the cool moments, because if I explain it, it's not going to be the same. And if I explain it, it's going to ruin it or whatever. So, but yeah, I think I talked more than I thought I was going to talk about. So I enjoyed it. Definitely, if you haven't watched the first one, it's weird to say it's fun, but it's nice to have an action movie that isn't like just full of testosterone, and the fact that they do some crazy things. I mean, there's some good choreography and stunt work or whatever, and so you should definitely check it out. So Nobody 2, it's good. It's fun, and you should watch that.
And that is going to be it for this week. So thank you for listening. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. We are still talking about Hobgoblin. We think a few more issues to go, maybe. I love the Hobgoblin. It's fun, exciting, just a big mystery. So we have that. I will be doing an Off My Mind soon, or some other, something mix things up. And I'm open to suggestions if there's something you want to hear about. Anything, it could be on the table potentially. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. All right, so next week, wish me luck. I got school starting, on Wednesday, halfway through, and it's just, it's fun. I'm excited, because I have, I teach middle school. The 7th and 8th graders are the same. I've had them. There's the 6th and 7th graders from last year, so it's exciting to see the kids again. And got a new group of students coming in that I'm not overly familiar with. They were on the lower campus, the other campus, the elementary school, whatever. So it's fun, new kids, and it's important. It's great when you can see they want to learn and all that. But still, it means waking up early every day, and I've been having, trying to get up on time early. It's a big change, because I don't go to sleep at night, and just adjusting to everything. So this summer just flew by, and I felt like I didn't do anything. So we got that, but we're going to try to keep the podcast as normal. So the movie feature will be Eden. I actually didn't see the first trailer until, so it would have been last week, like midweek or something like that. I didn't know anything about it, and I watched the trailer. I'm like, holy crap. I was like, I want to see this. So you got Jude Law, you got, who else in it? Ana de Armas, Sydney Sweeney. There's someone else. I forgot who else is in it. But it looks intense. And I think it's pretty sure it's directed by Ron Howard. So it's like, wow. I'm looking forward to that. There's also a movie coming out on Hulu called Eeny Meeny. I think I mentioned that before. It's a Samara Weaving. I don't know if I'll be able to get to that because I think it comes out on Friday. Maybe I would be able to watch that and talk about it the following week. So that would be episode 418. But I saw that trailer. I'm like, wow. I was like, why is this not in theaters? I would love to see that movie. I love Samara Weaving, and it looks like it could be fun. Maybe it's not going to be the most spectacular movie, original, whatever, but it looks fun. So if I don't talk about that, definitely check that out. And then I'll do Alien Earth episode 2. We'll have more, probably the 3rd episode of Wednesday. Have more Twisted Metal, more Dexter Resurrection comics, and news. So that'll be it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You are the reason this podcast is going. You listen. You keep listening. I will keep doing it. I hope if you are returning to school or anything like that, or had any time off of work or like that, I hope you had some time to rest. I hope you did fun things. Hope you continue to do fun things, and hope you're taking care of yourself, taking care of others. And I hope you remember to be good to each other.